Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our live recordings of Arc 6. Apologies for the delays. We really appreciate your patience over these past few days. We had a long weekend in America, so happy past long weekend, Americans. And also, I'm crashing out with teaching, so thank you so much for the patience, everybody. Just a few quick things before we get started and I bring the cast on. Number one, our auditions are still going on. We are actually a month away from closing our casting call for Arc 7. Yay! The pace that we're going, even with these odd breaks here and there, we should be set to finish Arc 6 before the end of the year, which is just before our Season 4 comes out of the anime. Yay! So there's a high chance we'll actually beat the anime, which is amazing, and we'd love to see that. So, yes, that's great. Next up, we just want to give a shout out to our new friends that we are collaborating with. We are collaborating with the ReZero Reddit. So if you were on the ReZero Reddit, we should have our own subreddit with them. Oh, thank you very much, Zoc. Part of the subreddit with them, or at least advertising with Reddit in the next couple days to weeks. So it was really nice for them to reach out to us. So we're going to work closely with them, give them shout outs on our videos moving forward, and let you guys know that we're partnered with them. They're really great. Check them out. Also, the ReZero Discord, if you are a part of it or not, we will be shouted out after stream today to let everyone know about the auditions. So if you are already on their Discord server, please feel free to keep an eye out. If you want to join, I'm going to link it while we're doing our introductions, but most of you who are here already know of their Discord server, so yes, that's that. I think that's about all of it for my little overview podcast. I need to really edit and get sat down to do it. I'm hoping this weekend, but I will let you all know when that happens. Of course, members first. You'll get it right away. And then those of you who are not members, you'll get it either the Monday or the Friday right after it's live. Yay! Okay, without further ado, let's bring the cast on. Say hello, and then I will link the ReZero Discord server.
Favor.
Hello, everybody.
We're
live.
Hi!
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, everybody. Vsauce
Welcome back from a good long break. Hope
Yay.
everyone's doing good.
Get a long break.
Yeah.
Yay.
A special triple feature for you all today.
Yes.
Yay!
Movie
Yeah.
length.
Movie length,
It'll
right?
Always ends up being
Review.
movie left, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Extra movie, double
always.
feature.
As
See some-
always. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I see some new faces in the chat, so we should jump into our introductions.
Yes.
Like feet fungus. Hello, feet fungus.
Hello, Felix.
What an interesting name.
Greetings.
All right, Al, take us away.
Hello, everyone. I am Al. I am the guy that's trapped in Studio Reverie's basement. They will never let me go. I escape and they just put me back. I've made friends with all the rats down here.
I have no right.
You're not supposed to say.
Yeah.
Cry.
Moving on.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Palazard, or Connor. I'm one of the hosts of the ReZero podcast, and your voice for Julius and Rom for the live recordings. And I'm the one who put Al there. And if you keep complaining, I'm going to open the door to the mines that's hidden in the back.
No, Black Lung.
Oh, no.
Black Lung.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm Gold. And I am one of the founders of Reverie. I'm also one of the hosts of the ReZero podcast. I voice Roswell. I narrate. I voice Felix sometimes. And I voice Sirius also sometimes. Okay, that's it.
I like the at the beginning.
All right, Greeny here, one of the editors of Studio Reverie. I'm getting excited for when it's my turn to edit.
Yay, it's coming.
I've been practicing.
I'm so glad.
I haven't. Speaking of, I'm Thomas, one of the other editors, as well as the voice of Maylee, and 2 out of the 3 gluttonies.
Woo woo. Hello, I'm Kyle's McGiles. I work here. I run the show. I'm Amelia. I'm covering for Shala and Anastasia today. Yep, that's it. Thanks.
Sorry. Hello, I'm Tealdi. I can speak good, real good. So good they let me narrate. I'm
Yay!
filling in for Betty. Things are happening.
Very
Good luck
good, I
to us
suppose.
all.
Now, that is a hook to get people in.
Wow.
As you can tell,
I
we're
do
all
think-
pretty fried. But, you know,
Sorry. Yeah.
Of
It's
course.
all for good reasons. Everybody's very busy, but we're all very happy to be back here.
Mhm.
Oh,
with
absolutely,
you all
yes.
tonight.
Wait.
Um,
we forgot.
We're not
Wolf.
done.
So,
oh yeah,
Hey,
sorry.
everyone.
you
I'm
did
gonna,
it.
I'm gonna mute myself for a second.
I'm Wolf, and not only am I a podcast host of the ReZero podcast itself, no, that's crazy, right? But then we go one step further. I'm your voice for Natsuki Subaru, and in some of the old Arc 5 live readings, I'm also your Liliana. It's okay, your ears can bleed. It's okay.
What was it? The MC opening.
Yeah.
It's my job, isn't it?
That was like crazy main character vibes. I've never heard that from you before.
I'll try to step up to the plate.
This is
for
the
first
guy we
time.
almost skipped over in introduction. This is the man we almost skipped.
Aren't you glad we didn't? Man, it's a treat for all today.
Apple Enjoyer, why are you a hater? Why
It's,
are you a hater?
Can I just say, the fact that that happened today of all days is going to be quite ironic when we get to the end of these chapters. Look forward to it.
Yes, yes.
Without further ado, should we just jump into it? Because it's going to be a 3-hour affair.
Yeah, this is going to be a long one, guys.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
A
I mean, I'm gonna have to leave
3-hour
early. That's how late
A
it's gonna go.
3-hour read.
I might need like
Yeah.
Hold up.
90 more
BRB.
Okay. Everyone go
Oh.
potty breaks.
Everyone
and
just
everything.
die.
Yeah. Also,
Now that we've introduced ourselves, everyone go.
Yeah, bye. It's been great.
You just hear cricket chirping.
What did you already announce, Kyles?
We announced the Reddit partnership. We announced the ReZero Discord. We announced podcasts coming out as soon as I possibly can. And the auditions.
Oh yeah, the auditions. There's been a lot of female submissions.
Yes! Oh my
Thank goodness.
gosh. We've had so
Oh
many
my
rems that are so
God.
good, and I'm sad.
She
I
almost
won't,
broke her desk.
I won't be rem. I won't be rem, and it's okay.
you can't be everybody.
Well, I just
And
want to
that's
be
okay.
her.
Fire. Well,
No,
that's
that's
what means
the
you feel
annoying
admire.
thing. That's
You could be
it.
the fangirl.
But I just want to be rem, and I'm everyone else. I will never
Yeah,
be
everyone
Rem.
else is
Everyone except Rem.
And literally, what is this
I
like
Miles
just
was in like a
ran
rem drought,
anywhere
crawling
else?
through the desert, desperately hoping for that role, and it was taken from her, and she held it.
Honestly, the voice
never get
actors
what
we
you want.
have. No. It's okay. Amelia is pretty pog.
Like,
She's
okay,
got one other that she's excited to get.
Yeah, she's like the main heroine or something, you know,
Yeah.
nothing special.
I mean, she I can't say it yet.
She's like,
she-
okay.
I guess.
She's live.
But,
She's alright.
We've got
there.
a really big, diverse group of talent that's already auditioned for all the roles for Arc 7.
Yes.
But there's still a shot. If you out there haven't auditioned and you even have the tiniest inkling that you want to, please do it before the deadline.
And we're not those annoying casting calls that cast before the deadline. Like we
Oh,
have
I hate that.
shortlisting,
Oh my.
and we know who we're gonna call for callbacks because we have a list. But like we aren't casting yet.
Yeah, so don't you're not gonna be popping up like 2 days before the deadline and wait, hold on. Why are all the roles closed? We don't
Like
do
everything's
that shit.
closed. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but if you want to be a Shrudak, I mean, we're still looking. that one's really
Yeah, we need
we're
so many.
hurting. Anyone
That
can
said, being
try.
on the short list is terrifying. It's like,
Yeah.
You're
oh,
welcome.
shit.
Shortlist equals callback.
Yeah,
Just by the way.
yeah.
I
It's,
Yay.
it's just a thing of us saying, oh yeah, like we got you sorted
Oh.
here, so we can actually call you back.
Taildy, we haven't even started on half of yours. We just went for certain ones.
I know.
We still
There's
have, like,
already
40
a
to go.
couple of. That's all right. I've noticed a couple already, and one of them I was really happy to see. It was like, oh, I hope that works out for me. wanted that one.
Like push his fingers together, you know.
It was
Yeah.
Gauze.
Please.
Yeah, it was Gauze.
No, it was Gauze.
100%.
Of course.
Oh my gosh.
And Groovy.
Groovies have been insane. I think we've almost shortlisted everyone who's done audition.
Really?
I'm
4 out of
gonna
5.
I
do
got
auditions
one of those, yeah.
shortly, too. It is a tradition. Anyone can audition for Groovy, and you should audition for Groovy. Okay, this is your call
Do
to
it.
action.
You know you want to.
Taildy and I applied. I think Common, did you apply for Groovy? I'm pretty sure Al did.
Of course,
I did.
Yeah.
I was the Mickey Mouse guy.
Yeah. Yeah, these fucking guys.
Even so.
There it is. We've had some auditions that we would love to make sound bites out of.
Yes.
So we might come back and find you, and we might ask if you could do a sound bite, because we had one for, I think it was Madeline. That was just absolutely so impeccable, and we have to contact that person.
We listened to it like 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
But with that, all done and dusted. Are we ready to get into this marathon, guys?
Oh yeah.
Hi.
I'm prepared.
Hi.
Timestampers in the chat. Take a look at the timing. We love you. You are our backbone.
You are a backbone to the Studio Reverie view economy.
You got to the point where people are actually asking for you in the description.
The unsung heroes.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing. If you happen to have not skipped this part and you're listening in, I will be updating the descriptions with our versions of the corrected proofread translations. They are from Witch Cult. We have just adjusted a couple. The first parts of Arc 6 were a little chaotic. The later parts, a lot less work for us, because Witch Cult did a really great job. But we will post those when I fix the descriptions. Hopefully before July, but probably in July.
Yeah, there's a lot of chapters that have had very little editing, but then there's been about 3 or 4 that we've almost basically completely reworked from the ground up. So if you notice,
there's
a lot of
2 I
differences
rewrote from
between the
scratch.
original,
Yeah.
then that's why.
And Witch Cult is looking into incorporating it. I forget who I talked to about that, but somebody said so. So it shouldn't be long before it's accessible.
Gluttony's getting to her.
Oops. All right, without
You ready
further
to
ado,
take us
let's
away, Gold?
go.
All right, give me one moment.
1. Sorry.
Well, guess we gotta start.
I think he might need more than a moment.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, we can keep chatting.
Okay, sorry.
I've counted like
Sorry
maybe
for
10.
Yeah, I
making that
was
awkward for a
glad to
second.
look at all the auditions and notice I'm not the only one on any of the, I'm not the lone person on any of them anymore. There's at least 2 submissions for every
So
single one. So
exciting.
thank you all.
Yay!
It is pretty exciting.
Women!
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna
Yay! It's great.
Yes.
The one place it's great to be a woman.
I love women.
Damn.
All right,
Alright,
Gold. Take us away.
Yeah, sure. Why not? All right, everybody. Arc 6, Chapter 31. An encouragement of cooperation in the tower. In the end, the conclusion of the second floor lecture capture meeting was put on hold. Although they had failed to come up with an idea that would allow everyone to break through their current situation, the biggest factor in their decision to postpone everything was but one. Super Stomach had begun growling.
Looking back, I was unconscious for 2 entire days before I got up, and immediately got to tackling the tower's examinations. Ugh. No wonder my stomach was almost touching my back.
It was only when the conversation died down that Subaru's stomach roared, and for the first time did he realize exactly how famished he was. To be unable to fight on an empty stomach was not actually true, but what was true was that it affected one's ability to think properly. As a result, once Subaru's stomach started growling, to make its dissatisfaction known, everyone took it as a chance to sum up their discussions for the time being.
Honestly, some part of me feels rescued because my stomach made a noise.
Leaving aside the breakthrough plan for the second floor, there was a certain pattern observed in the questions proposed by the examinations of the watchtower. Alongside the realization of the pettiness of the examiner, the exact nature of the danger Shala posed also came to light. Subaru was supposed to be wary of her because of her fighting prowess to begin with, but because of her airheadedness and her massive clickiness towards him, had made him put his guard down.
It's fine to just stay here with me and have fun with me.
No matter how many days, years, or even hundreds of years, indeed, Shell's audacious declaration had reminded everyone exactly what danger she posed, as it likely should be.
It's not like I'm planning on it or anything, but if we make a break for it in the middle of our tower conquest, it seems like there's a rule that'll make her definitely become our enemy. Right.
Sifting through his mind, he recalled one of the many rules Shell had spoken of. Dropping out in the middle examination, violating any of the examination's rules, disrespecting the library, and destroying the tower. If any of those were to be broken, then Shell would once more become the enemy she had been when preventing them from entering the watchtower. He wished to avoid that, be it in terms of ability to fulfill their goal or simply on an emotional level.
But, just sticking around here for years on end, like how Shawla put it, doesn't really seem realistic. So I'd really like a pass on that. But...
Regarding the topic of the tower conquest soberly, many different kinds of anxieties would naturally rear their ugly heads. Subaru and the gang had already spent over a month on the path to get to the Pleiades watchtower. Even if they cleared the examinations one after another without a hitch and conquered the tower, and then took that same amount of time to get back to Pristella, their journey would have lasted around 3 months. Of course, withdrawing halfway was, because it would make Shaw an enemy, an undesirable decision to come to, but the royal selection deadline needed to be kept in consideration as Amelia and Anastasia were participants. 3 years in total. A bit over 1 year had already passed, leaving only less than 2 years at hand. Of course, the time that could be accumulated and the time that could be spent were, in fact, both impossibly limited.
But if you keep worrying about tomorrow's tomorrow, you won't get anywhere, in fact. For now, the tomorrow that is based on today is important, I suppose. For that...
I gotta eat till I'm full now. Right.
That is so, in fact.
Beatrice pointed her finger at Subaru as he spoke those words. As the discussions were halted in lieu of preparing their meals, Subaru took his chance to go and stroll through the various parts of the tower, spending his free time wandering through the 4th floor, the area everyone designated as their residential quarters. And accompanying him, holding his hand as tightly as she could, was Beatrice. The reason they held hands every now and then was because Subaru's gate was busted, and as his contracted spirit, Beatrice collected his pent-up mana. But even putting that reason aside, Subaru wanted to hold Beatrice's hand, and Beatrice herself never refused.
Besides, you were really worried about me when I was out cold for 2 whole days, right? So, just relax for today and let me spoil you.
Stupid comments, I suppose. I'm only collecting the mana I didn't bother collecting when Subaru was sleeping, in fact. Betty wants to always be at her best, especially in this tower, I suppose. I want to avoid a lack of preparation, in fact.
You say that, but in the end, weren't you the one who held my hand while I was sleeping? Even though you didn't collect my mana?
That was indeed unrelated to mana, but an act for the purpose of recharging Betty's heart, so it doesn't matter, I suppose.
Subaru smiled as Beatrice puffed her chest as she proudly stated her mana-unrelated intentions, and decided not to point out how it was much more an embarrassing thing. In any case, Subaru raised his hand in agreement with Beatrice. They had to keep the 2nd floor examination in consideration. By no means did he want to think that the 1st floor examination also required heavy combat power, but he could not exclude the possibility. Moreover, the Subaru and Beatrice duo had functionality even outside of battle, and for that, he needed Beatrice to be at peak conditions at all times.
Alright, Bearco! I'm good now, so you don't have to mind me. Just keep on sucking out my mana till you're round and plumb!
To puff up like a ball, even if a lot of mana is collected, in fact. Moreover, are you aware of how much mana you have, even if you were feeling good, I suppose? Can't have you collapsing again because I took what little mana you already have, I suppose.
Oi! If that's the case, what are you suggest doing?
Therefore, at the very least, you need to eat your fill, rest up, recover your strength and mana, and also work hard and keep Betty company, I suppose. That is your mission, in fact.
I'm pretty sure I'm all good now. And I'm pretty sure your true feelings about being lonely when left alone were mixed in there.
Subaru deftly bore a complicated mix of chagrin and charm on his face, Upon hearing the footsteps of someone coming from further back in the passage, he stopped walking. That noise was produced by none other than Amelia, on the other end. Noticing Subaru and Beatrice there, she approached, surprised. In her hand, she held a metal container painted silver. It's a bucket.
Bucket, huh? Even at times like this, Amelia Tongue's giving her best, eh? Gonna practice singing?
What are you saying, Subaru? I sure do get a lot of help from Bucket Sensei when I'm practicing singing. Now's not really the time for it, you know?
Right. So, what's with the bucket again?
Well, I'm getting Bucket Sensei to do his usual job. Of course.
Smiling at Subaru's question, Amelia thrust the bucket to him. And it was full of water, so indeed, Bucket Sensei was doing its original job well. However, even if the bucket had fulfilled its purpose, there rose a question in that of itself.
But where's the water from? The tower is surrounded by a sand sea, right?
Oh, no. That's where you're wrong, Subaru. If you go past the tower really, really far, the Great Waterfall's supposed to be there. And there really is a lot of water there, so...
You went all the way just for a bucket of water? All for me?
If it's for you, Subaru, I wouldn't mind doing it at all. But that's not it. To tell you the truth, the spirit in the green room can give us fresh and clean water.
She wore pride on her face as she spoke for some reason, but Subaru felt giddy for that little bit she had stated before giving him the truth of the situation. That if it were Subaru, she would go fetch water from even the Great Waterfall. It made him incredibly happy.
While we're at it, happy and all, you know, the spirit of that room is really something. Going all the way, even outside of healing injuries and all, isn't it?
If it's just making water, Beatrice and I can do it with magic, but...
It's too thick around the sand dunes in the tower, I suppose. It would be much wiser to avoid drinking the water created from mana affected by it, in fact.
That's how it is.
I see.
Beatrice weighed on Amelia's reluctance, and Subaru recognized the problem. The problem of securing a source of drinking water for the journey up to that point, which should be regarded as important in a normal journey, had been more or less cleared by relying on magic. As long as one had mana, there's no need to carry a large amount of drinking water, as it could be reduced as much as needed. Only the containers were necessary. Magic made things extremely convenient in this case.
It's not air pollution, but more like mana pollution, huh? So, it's like bad for you, drinking that water?
Any immediate changes will be seen in the body, I suppose. But the more you drink, the more miasma enters you, in fact. If that happens, at the very worst, developing a physical condition like Subaru and earning special attention from witch beasts may be possible, I suppose. I'm getting shivers just thinking about it, in fact.
It's weird coming from me, but it really is hard living with it and all.
He often made use of this specific property of his at various times, but it was more of a last resort, not something that could be used often. Even beyond that, if he went hiking in the mountains for whatever reason, there would be a risk of accidentally getting surrounded by witch beasts. If given a choice, not having such a physical condition would be much better than having it.
And so, we're using the green room spirit purified spring water as much as possible. We did the same thing when Subaru was sleeping for 2 days straight.
So that's how it was.
He felt impressed by the explanation of the unknown living conditions of Pleiades' watchtower, and as he mulled over the talk of spring water, a natural question hit Subaru. It even had to do with the caution he felt towards Shala from just before.
Putting aside the water stuff, how are we doing with the food? We did fill up on the supplies at the city beyond the Sand Sea, but we did have a hard time with it.
You can relax. Even with all that turmoil, the food didn't just fly off somewhere. All of it's still in the dragon carriage. But,
No matter how you distribute it, it's not gonna last maybe even a month, is it?
Even if drinking water had been put aside, There was a weight limit on what he carried on the dragon carriage. Moreover, food needs were not limited to Subaru and the gang. Their partner dragons, Patricia and Gian, needed food as well. Keeping that fact in mind, they had stocked up on a month's worth of food. Barely escaping the tower with their lives was not the only topic on hand. They had merely a month's time to conquer Pleiades' watchtower proper and head off to the nearest town safely. Subaru and the others' deadline to capture Pleiades' watchtower was just that 1 month.
That said, I really don't plan on being here for the whole month.
Subaru?
Noticing a hint of worry in her eyes, Subaru smiled. They had a deadline, and their challenges were many, but they could start shying away from them.
Anyhow, in just one day... Oh, well, I got us off to a late start, so to be fair, it's the third day since we got to the tower. But we've already cleared the first examination, and Amelia Tan easily nabbed her victory in the second.
It really wasn't easily nabbed, though.
You're supposed to season this part with a good bluff, so it's completely fine.
He pointed his finger at a serious Amelia, arrogance at full throttle, then pulled Beatrice closer to him and placed his chin on top of her head. That way, both Subaru and Beatrice were looking up at Amelia.
Doesn't matter if the opponent's the strongest form of Sword Saint or whatever. Bayako and I are gonna lambast that one-eyed, sexual harassing chopstick bastard's face in with our brilliant strategies.
That is so, I suppose. Lambast his face in fact.
Lambast.
Who even says lambast these days?
No count. That's so unfair. Subaru and Beatrice kept saying it's so...
Having fallen into Subaru and Beatrice's collaborative trap, Amelia puffed up her red-dyed cheeks in anger. As they added a new pattern to their usual back and forth, Amelia sighed, as if it could not be helped, her worry fading a bit more.
Fine. I get it just fine. Hearing it from Subaru makes it feel like it was really easy. But that one makes you sound just as reliable.
Yeah, just have faith. Keep on hoping and keep on loving me. That's why I'm your knight, after all.
That's right, isn't it? I'll be in your care, then, my dearest knight.
Just now, you didn't deny the love part, so I'm kind of shaken.
Huh?
The whisper of love he had mixed into their usual banter seemed to have been brushed aside smoothly, so he felt slightly disappointed. Well, even if he had been properly answered, his feeling of being flustered would not have gone away, so it was actually better this way. In any case.
I know it's a bit late to ask, but isn't it kind of weird that Amelia Tan was the one who was told to fetch water? This is the kind of work that's supposed to be... not really done by your knight, but isn't it supposed to be the kind of work that underlings do?
It's really fine. Subaru might be my knight, but I don't want our relationship to be that of a master and servants. I just want Subaru to stay next to me. That's all that's needed to protect you. You're recovering right now, so be obedient and be spoiled.
What's up with that, Amelia Tan? If you're gonna pamper me so much, I'm gonna die from happiness!
Besides that, I'm in charge of today's dinner. I want to do everything by myself.
It seems like she is serious about both statements. That's what makes her so hard to read, I suppose.
Beatrice let out a short sigh at Amelia's statement, and then, as Subaru kept his chin on her head, she waved to Amelia.
Look, Amelia, Subaru isn't going to relax as long as you're here, in fact. You're delaying preparations for our meal as well, so hurry and be off, I suppose.
Really? Okay. I'll see you later then. Look forward to it, okay?
We'll be waiting with glee.
Beatrice sent Amelia off in spineless Subaru's place. Her response to Amelia's words reflected a subtle difference in their perceptions.
I'll call you when it's done, so don't go too far off, okay?
We'll be going to the 4th floor, I suppose. As for if we can hear your calls or not...
Gotcha. I'll use a louder voice.
Okay, in fact.
After exchanging smiles, Amelia went off on her way, bucket in hand, waving her hand as she disappeared around the corner. Seeing that, Beatrice looked up at Subaru still resting his chin on her head.
Now then, I hope you have calmed down, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm good now. I don't really get it, but I suddenly thought Amelia Tan was really cute, you know? Like everything else, but Amelia Tan doesn't have colour anymore, so I feel all better now that I got to really see her really smile!
I don't understand a word of what you're saying. It's worse than usual, in fact. And besides that...
Besides that?
He had spoken of his true feelings for Amelia in poem format with a straight face, so Beatrice pressed her back against Subaru's chest and...
It's unfair you're so full of Amelia, I suppose. Betty is Subaru's Aikata, in fact. Please act with awareness of this fact, I suppose.
You're really a cute little thing, aren't you? Woo!
In fact...
As she seemed too sweet all of a sudden, Subaru picked her up and spun her round and round in the hallway as he rubbed his cheeks against hers.
It's fine! Relax! I loved you too! How do I put it right now? Everything around me looks so beautiful, but you're looking particularly spectacular! I love you! Bayako!
Wait, I get it. All right, so let me go. Let me down already, I suppose. I got it already, so let me down, in fact.
But even as Beatrice shouted, her face beat red, Super would not let her down. And so he wandered around the halls of the 4th floor, spinning through each space available, Beatrice still in his arms with glee. The voices of the two would continue painting the halls with cries of joy for some time more, until Amelia's shout of, "The food's ready," was heard. Now then, the total time before their meal was not literally spent spinning. Beatrice presented him with a very thorough walking tour of the 4th floor, being his senior here, as she had spent 2 more days than him actively living in the tower. Though, as it may be, in the first place, this place was called a watchtower. However, there was no need to be concerned about its habitability, and in fact, nothing extra needed to be done to improve the comfort of living, even the designated residential area, the 4th floor. The only special rooms were the green room, which had become their treatment facility, and the large room which housed the stairs leading to the 3rd and 2nd floors. Apart from the large stairs leading to the floor below, there were only many smaller rooms scattered here and there, with no visible pattern to them.
It feels weird to not have a map, but I'm sure it'd feel even weirder if we had one. This tower definitely has a creepy design. I'm absolutely sure of it. Really not a fan of these kind of round arrangements of buildings.
What are you even talking about? Seeing how distasteful the contents of the examinations are, it's no use complaining about the wicked personality of their creator, I suppose. Too late for that now, in fact.
Ah! That right there! That's talking bad about my master! You ankle biter, you bad-mouthing my master! He's the one who built this tower, you know? Are you okay with this, master? If you're spoiling her just because she's little, she'll grow up all rotten, you know? You should scold them silly like they're adults. And then, you can spoil me as much as you want after. Come on over here!
Just shut it already!
Running her mouth as if she'd slain an ogre, Shala tried finding fault in Beatrice, but in fact, Beatrice had said nothing particularly bad, but he felt it was a pain to explain. There was no point trying to differentiate between Subaru, her master, and the sage each and every time, even more since they were using that misunderstanding to their benefit.
Hey, stop fooling around all the time. Shala, too. Please be quiet. I can't take this! This is discrimination! Discrimination between ankle biters. If she really does something bad, Subaru will properly scold her and not just spoil her. And since he's not, it means Beatrice did nothing to get scolded. And besides, it's only natural that the younger ones are treasured more. We have to be patient, Shala.
Even though Betty's older than everyone else, it doesn't sit well with me that I'm always treated as a child, I suppose.
Yeah. Just show off how old you are.
He smiled as he petted Beatrice's head to calm her down. In response to Amelia's call for their meal, all parties concerned gathered in the large room on the fourth floor, the place where the dragon carriages and their cargo were being kept. Everyone but Rem and Anastasia, due to both being unconscious, were present inside the dining room. All sat facing each other. Everyone except those two, which meant.
Before we begin, would it be permissible for me to speak for a bit, Amelia-sama?
Having been the last one to arrive at the room, Julius spoke. While Julius had been practically thrown into the green room to recover from his injuries, his reasoning for appearing was definitely not limited to partaking in the meal. He had refused the proposal of having his food being carried to the green room, and to answer his question, Amelia, who is managing the place, nodded.
Of course, by all means. But you don't really need to ask for my permission, you know?
As Anastasia-sama is currently absent, the one who ought to be respected the most is Amelia-sama. Moreover, my selfish attitude has already inconvenienced you. That is only limited to this occasion, is something I cannot certainly say.
The response of Julius, as he shook his head, had everything articulated elegantly. His humble mannerisms and his honest disposition were, at last, as was part of his usual nature. However, individuals who would not take his speech in a favorable manner were present as well.
How admirable! If only you acted as such beforehand.
Ram.
We have enough recklessness and stubbornness with Barasu over there. In fact, it is far more natural to be disappointed in a person who seemed sane. I hope you will take care not to repeat this in the future.
Ram sharply evaluated Julius's arbitrary actions. A chill in her voice and eyes were her usual features, but this particular time, Subaru felt her expression was much sterner. Even if she was harsh, as usual, there was a certain hint of concern mixed into her words.
Ram, you went a bit too far this time.
Please accept my sincere apologies, Amelia-sama. From hereafter, I will take more care.
She immediately apologized for her bitterness, then gave a fleeting nod to Julius. As such, there was no point in further pulling this topic around. Besides, it would not be right to blame Ram for not being as level-headed. She held no grudge, nor felt any hate for Julius. She simply wished to save Ram, and was doing everything in her power to do so.
My sincerest apologies to both Miss Rom and everyone else. I have caused everyone much worry.
Understanding fully well that Ram's words were only him reaping what he sowed, Julius bowed his head and dropped the matter from his side as well. This was what Julius had wanted to do before starting their meal. Subaru did have an inkling of understanding for Julius's prior behavior, so he had already forgiven him, but whether Julius had forgiven himself was an entirely different matter. This was the first step he took in order to start the ritual to absolve himself.
Okay. Julius apologized. I accept that apology. With that, I'm all done with this matter.
Clapping her hands together, Amelia summed up her feelings on the matter of Julius's apology. Subaru, followed by Beatrice, nodded.
Well, I've already let him have it from my part, so I won't be saying anything beyond that out of Samurai's compassion.
As Samurai's compassion, in fact. It's fine if you simply regain faith with future actions, I suppose.
My thanks.
Ruminating on those two words, Julius whispered under his breath. Following Subaru and Beatrice, Meili suddenly responded to Julius' whisper of gratitude. While sitting on the floor with her legs stretched out, she fiddled with her braid as she spoke.
Isn't it fine? He didn't die after all. And I'm not particularly concerned about Night Oni-san either anyway.
Master's saying Mondanai, so Mondanai for me as well. Mokunai!
Yeah, no. Mokunai is something entirely different.
Meili's thoughts were likely exactly as she put them, indifference rather than consideration for Julius. Shala, who agreed, probably was in the same boat, much like Shala, who was affiliated with the tower and had not shown any signs of opening up to anyone other than Meili and Subaru. Meili's position in all of this was vague as well, and so Only Ram did not respond directly to Julius' apology, not saying a word about whether she forgave him or not. She simply put her white robe over her head and stared down at her meal. Julius wordlessly accepted that. Everyone apart from Julius did the same. This alone was a personal matter. Everyone felt it would be best for them not to stick their noses into it.
Well then, let's dig in. Ram and I were the cooks for today.
We could not use fire, so we put a bit of our manliness into it. Otherwise, it should be decent.
That's right. It's really decent. Doesn't that sound a bit weird?
Her voice reminded everyone of their current state. Even though Amelia tilted her head to pose a question, neither Ram nor anyone else followed up on it. Anyhow, following this exchange, everyone sat to have their precious meal. Most of the food being carried in the dragon carriage were either smoked or dried rations, so naturally the food would be coarse and tough. However, magic proved to be of great use here as well. Though the use of Amelia's specialty of ice magic, it was possible to create a pocket refrigerator in the dragon carriage, allowing fresh ingredients to be stored for long periods of time. Because of this, the party was able to have plenty of fresh fruits and other foodstuffs, being able to maintain a fairly balanced diet.
We still have to first use the ingredients that spoil pretty fast.
We're really lucky to even be able to worry about that, you know? Really? You're EMS! With this journey and all, I'm sure your cooking's got even better. So, maybe make miso soup every morning for the rest of my life?
Sorry, I've got no idea what you're talking about.
It was true. However, that Amelia's cooking skills had improved. At the request of Amelia herself, cooking on this journey was being done in rotations. Of course, it was a given that Amelia never cooked by herself, instead learning by following another cook's footsteps. Thanks to that, there was no one kept burning their daisuke platter pitch black, because she was put in charge of the part of cooking that did not involve the use of fire. Incidentally, among the members partaking in this journey, the only people who could actually cook were Subaru, who had picked up the skill over his year of being a servant at the mansion, Julius, who apparently was capable of whatever he set his mind to, and finally Ram, whose cooking was surprisingly decent. Even on their way to Pristella, the only people who had put themselves on cooking duty were the male trio of Subaru, Otto, and Garfield, who had decided their order through rock, paper, scissors. Leaving that aside...
Staring at me like that. Do you have something to say?
Nah, I know it's been over a month now since we started this journey and all, but I still really can't believe it. That Ram could cook!
I was wondering what you were going to say, but this is just...
Using his meaningful stare as excuse, Ram sighed, unwilling to hide any of her distaste for him.
The only reason Ram does not go near the kitchen is not because Ram cannot cook, but because she does not want to. I'm not going to use my skills for any kind of cooking that does not involve steamed sweet potatoes. That test can be handed out to Frederica and Petra.
So, that's why... well, that's that then.
That's that. I wonder why I make an exception just for steamed sweet potatoes, though.
Ram's visage crumbled to a complex expression as he questioned her own preferences herself. As she gazed at her profile, he let his own faint sigh. No matter what household chore it was, Ram always lagged behind Rem. Now, as all traces of Rem had been erased from the world, Subaru observed that their sisterly bond might have not been the same as their face value. In truth, Ram was supposed to be able to perform any kind of task assigned to her, regardless of whether it was present in her list of duties as a maid. Thus, it may be that, in the first place, she would not lose to Rem in terms of ability. In other words, if Rem thought about doing it, she could do whatever she wanted when Rem was in good health. The reason she did not was most likely related to her laziness, or not. Subaru felt like he should not dig up these particular things. The present Ram certainly knew nothing of that, and if Rem returned, he felt it would be unnecessary to bring it up. When she returned, rather.
I kind of guessed that was how it's gonna be, but you really have no table manners, do you?
Master, did you just say something?
She blinked a few times at Subaru, who looked at her with a scowl. The number of top-class beauties who would completely waste their good looks in this world was not low, and Subaru had to be the top class of that top class, to the point where she was on par with Liliana. As she brought food to her mouth with her hand, Subaru scratched his head.
Oi, don't talk with food in your mouth. Eat or talk. Do one.
Okay. Then I'll talk with Master. I can talk to Master for all eternity.
Who'd want to get in a chat with you like this? Just be quiet and eat.
Okay.
Well, he had to feel a bit of respect for her level of loyalty. Wanted to prioritize talking to Subaru above eating and such. He felt that precisely because she was so ready to obey, Shallow's risk level was actually low. Indeed, her nature as a person, her ability in every other aspect, and the level of danger she posed to everyone were all in utter imbalance.
Say, Naked One-san, you really have a, ferocious way of eating. Were you really that hungry?
Nah, it's just the food's super tasty. I didn't really think eating that big of a deal. But if it's really this tasty, I wouldn't mind becoming that half-devil's disciple. My disciple? As in cooking?
Instead of stopping at Millie's point, she went beyond the topic and snapped her fingers to Amelia as she swallowed down whatever she was munching on. Amelia jumped, startled, while Shallow continued to shake her head up and down.
This cooking's pretty good. You can't fool my eyes. I'm gonna take up cooking too. Get good at it right away and make it into my master's heart through his stomach and not let him get any sleep tonight.
Your real intentions are leaking there.
Shala, I understand your feelings, but the way of the cook is a hard-trodden path. If you're really ready, I'll put some serious thought into taking you in as my disciple.
Amelia-tan, you're really cheeky about the weirdest things, you know.
Besides, 70% of today's cooking was likely the result of Ram's work. So it was hilarious to watch Amelia act like she had figured out everything there was to cooking, and Shallow, who was a bit too taken in by amateur-level cooking.
I feel like I gotta get this out there, but there's a lot of tasty stuff out there. Amelia-tan's cooking is, well, it gets full marks just because she did it, but putting that aside, it's pretty average. What are you usually eating anyway?
Thank you for asking me, Master. My eating habits aren't really anything special. I'm usually filling myself by roasting whatever beast I take down.
Whatever beasts you take down? Wait! Do you mean those witch beasts from outside?
Shala listened to Subaru's question, then folded her arms under her voluptuous mounds, and nodded repeatedly. To have a steady diet of witch beasts was too weird to be a normal thing, so to take this advice of a specialist, Subaru turned to Beatrice and posed the natural question with his look.
I know we just talked about not drinking water that's mixed with miasma a while ago, but...
I don't even want to think if witch beast meat is good for the body or not, in fact. It's only that it's not something that's so dangerous that it'll have an immediate bad effect, I suppose.
According to certain records, there were a few researchers who had set out to eat witch beast meat in the past.
As Subaru undid the wrinkles between Beatrice's brows with his fingers, Julius brought up an interesting piece of information. As everyone's expression urged him to continue after he stopped, Julius closed one eye and began anew.
As you are already aware, witch beasts have a habit of attacking people. Be it in the middle of their march or during a long journey, if one were hard-pressed enough for food, they could find witch beasts aplenty, wandering with dangerous territories. After all, they never think of hiding. Witch beasts will always come to attack. If one defeats them, then it was obvious that that was a good source of food that could be obtained. There should be no doubt there were individuals who truly thought this.
Well, did that go end well for them then?
To improve their situation for nourishment, they apparently faced many twists and turns, went through much trial and error. However, no such improvement was found. Of course, those who ate it found it not to be poisonous, but...
But?
Seems there was a problem with the taste.
Subaru looked amazed that it turned out to be a problem of taste. If it tasted bad, then it was fine to cover up with various spices or other condiments. It was true that the meat of wild beasts had this raw and earthy taste, but if it wasn't poisonous, then they ought to have at least tried a little bit harder.
That was as far as it was recorded in literature. Miss Charlotte, what is your personal experience with it?
It tastes like sand that's been rinsed in sewage water. Totally.
It's the kind where spices won't help.
If Master wants to try some, we'll roast a whole hungry horse king. It's so fucking bad he gets super addicted. I'm lying.
After finding out what unimaginable thing had her 400-year diet was, everyone unanimously decided to no longer blame her poor table manners. He politely declined the whole roasted hungry horse king offer. In the first place, that particularly disturbing witch beast was already on fire?
I thought having to worry about food was an actual problem, but...
He popped himself down and covered his face. At the end of his vision, there was Shala, her entire face lit with a smile so bright it could bring tears to others as she stuffed a variety of food into her mouth, and Amelia, who looked on as Shala ate, her feelings of motherhood being further stimulated, which could potentially lead her to further improve her cooking. 1 month, that was the amount of time left to them, which accounted for all their food, including their excess. And if Shala kept at the pace at which she ate, their time limit might just decrease even further, Subaru thought. Once their meal was over, and they had their baths in spring water, consisting of mainly wiping their bodies, the day was dubbed as over, and it was time to go to bed. In light of their present situation, it could be said that the Tower Conquest Squad ought to spend the night trying to come up with a plan to break through their current stalemate, but at present, everyone felt that would not work out like that. To expect tomorrow's matters to be solved by their tomorrow selves might have been more appropriate than given credit for.
Not like we're gonna get smacked in the face with it. Let's take a bit more time.
Given what the contents of the second floor examinations were, worst case scenario, they might have to go again the next day without a plan at all. Instead of thinking up a workaround, they would go at it with all they had, though, in truth, they all wanted to avoid being torn limb from limb. At the very least, their examiner, the first January Sword Saint, had no intention of killing them. Or maybe they could find a way to overcome his particular obstacle simply from conversing with him, just like how Amelia had pried out their winning conditions from him simply by talking.
Well, gotta do what I gotta do to keep my head straight. So, I have to eat well, rest well, and always be at peak performance.
He thought as he pinched both of his cheeks, then put all his worries away for the day. For the most part, Amelia and the others agreed with Super's point, or rather, they were so demotivated they had no choice but to. And with that, the night's meeting was over. Each left for the dragon carriage, which they were using as a makeshift bedroom, to rest and prepare for the next day, and at least that was supposed to be the case.
True. Betty will be with Amelia and the others, in fact.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry for making you worry, Bearco. Don't stay up too late. You'll stop growing and get stuck in your small size. Oh! Wait, that's pretty cute. Alright, Bearco, remember to stay up late.
You don't have to worry. Betty won't grow any taller than this, I suppose. I'll be cute forever, in fact. So I'll be like this even if I sleep early, I suppose.
After yawning, Subaru waved to Beatrice as she parted. As she left Subaru to say goodnight, Beatrice was holding hands with Amelia.
Amelia-tan, take care of Bearco. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Subaru, don't stay up too late either, okay?
Instead of directly telling him not to, Subaru said her piece and headed down the great stairway to the lower floor. Once she was out of sight, Subaru stretched a few times, then walked down the fourth floor's passage. His destination was obvious, a door that was covered in ivy, then to the green room, and there...
Is that you, Subaru?
It's you.
In front of the room, Subaru ran into Julius, who gazed at him with eyes wide. Just when he was about to enter the green room, Subaru had arrived, so he squinted at him for a good moment, then immediately pulled back his chin knowingly.
I understand. It seems we share the same reason for entering this room.
I'm pretty sure we have different people in mind. So, should I give it up to you tonight?
No need.
Shaking his head at Subaru's proposal, Julius looked to the closed door. A moment of silence followed, then the pair of yellow eyes were once again pointed at Subaru, and then Julius took a step back from the door, as if giving up.
This time, it is I who ought to give it up for you. Thinking back, you were unconscious for 2 entire days until this morning. I did inform her of your well-being afterwards, but I am sure she yearned for your presence at night nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, if you're giving it up to me, I shall just gladly take you up on your offer.
Imitating his elegant style, Subaru scratched his head while stealing quick glances at Julius. He found no signs of displeasure in Julius' expression, but Subaru was bad at trying to snoop into someone else's feelings in the first place. That was double for anyone who hid their true feelings. It was practically impossible for him at that point.
You okay with that? I'm pretty sure you want to tag along.
So Subaru sighed and spoke what was on his mind in a straightforward fashion. Julius gave a thin smile in response, as to say, most definitely.
It is true that I would prefer being at Anastasia-sama's side once she wakes up. Possible. It is only that I feel I will be unable to find the words to speak to her when she does. It is true that I am feeling lost about this aspect. It is most deplorable.
Very worried, so I'm glad you've awakened. The problem is what comes next. That... well, I'll leave that to you. Oi! Why'd you laugh? I'm being pretty serious, you know.
Even if he was being serious, it seemed that Julius had not taken it too fondly. He then gyrated on his heels, turning his back to Subaru, who wore a surprised expression at that strange reaction.
You are able to freely say what you want. I envy that.
Kind of feels more like you're calling me an idiot. Oi! Where are you going?
I am relinquishing this place to you. I shall return to the dragon carriage and take rest. I feel slightly worn out from today's activities.
Raising his hand while keeping Subaru at his back, Julius told him before leaving. Whether he felt well enough to joke about the examination tiring him only slightly, or whether he was simply putting up a front, was something Subaru could not tell. He could not tell, but...
Julius, it's better if you're there when Anastasia-san wakes up after all. When I'm done with my stuff, I'll head over to get you. So you better do just that. Beforehand, but I'm pretty sure I've got a lot more regrets on my back than you. So this is my advice. Just take it.
He shouted at the back that disappeared into the hallway. Whether Julius heard or not, he was unsure as there was no reply. However, Julius would definitely not take it the wrong way. At least, Subaru believed that.
Sorry for disturbing.
With a shake of his head, Subaru threw away all considerations he had for Julius, and he pushed the door open, taking a step into the green room. The room, illuminated by a dim and faint glow, still remained dominated by greenery, with 2 girls who lay asleep on a bed of ivy. Anastasia on the bed near the entrance, and Rem on the bed further back.
And you're at the back too, huh?
Oh. Regarding Subaru who had come to visit her, Petre let out a low growl, as if Jet Black Dragon knew he would come. Tactful as she was, perhaps Petre did know that Subaru would come. Spontaneously, she moved away to make space for Subaru to sit on her bed of ivy.
Really? You're one hell of a girl. Those wounds are healing up nicely too, eh?
With a bitter smile, Subaru traced her black scales with his hands. The wound she had received at the time of the underground fight against the Hungry Horse King had healed nicely over the past 3 days. Normally, she would not let Subaru know the true extent of her injuries. Now, however, she was generally focused on recovering instead of putting up a strong front.
Really can't thank the spirit enough. If it weren't for this room, Who knows how hard this whole thing would have turned out to be.
Subaru would never voice that it was good Patricia had gotten off with shallow wounds, but it was true that the damage they had sustained in their journey through the Agoria's sand dunes had been minimal. The only ones that had been injured were only Subaru and Patricia. That they were able to come back up to above functioning standard was all thanks to this green rum, including the duo of Julius and Anastasia that had been wounding during the second floor's examination as well. The existence of the green room was indeed miraculous, as if someone had known this might happen and left it prepared beforehand.
Well then.
Once he was done affirming his love for Patricia, Stewart took a deep breath before heading towards the bed further inside the room, towards Rem. When there, the ivy shifted like flowing silk, gathering into a spot to make a sort of chair for the standing Subaru to sit upon.
Really, man? There should be a limit to how nice you can be.
Even though he had just expressed his everlasting gratitude for the green room spirit, he felt like it was taken as flattery for even better treatment. That was far from his intention, but he took the offer anyway, and so Subaru sat down.
Julius did mention Rem's been missing me at night.
That was a mistake. That was not the case at all, because the one who was willing to speak late at night, when no one would bother him, was not Rem, but surely Subaru. Subaru knows something was off when he felt his shoulders being slightly shaken. Raising his face from the bed, he blinked several times. Contrary to physical reactions, the mind was usually much slower to react. And slowly, his conscience returned to him. Returning to reality, he noticed.
Did I fall asleep?
Hand on his chin, Subaru pondered the surprising fact that he had actually fallen asleep. It seemed that he was still in the green room, still sitting on the chair right beside Rem's bed, and it appeared he dozed off in that very position. However, he felt that the shape of his chair was somewhat different from what he had remembered. The chair in his memories had no backside, but now the chair had a larger backside to support him in his sleep, and it had taken an almost egg-like shape to conform to his whole body as much as possible. The hospitality of the spirit was just too damn strong. It was so comfortable that it turned yawns into actual sleep.
I guess it means I was pretty tired too. Eh, Patricia?
Muttering about the feeling of fatigue he was unaware of, Subaru turned to the cause of his awakening, Patricia, who had nudged his shoulder with her long tail to wake him. Curled up over the ivy bed, his beloved ground jargon roused him to alert him of something. Subaru squinted at where she was staring and...
No way.
Following Patricia's line of sight, Subaru jumped off the chair and rushed over to the bed that was lying on the green room's entrance door, the one Anastasia was supposed to be occupying. It's supposed to be because she was nowhere to be found, and once it hit Subaru, his face lost color.
Even though I gave Julius an earful about this.
Only because he had dozed off. Julius could not greet Anastasia when she woke up. He could not even face him if he wanted with this. Unfortunately, that was not the only problem.
She got up, and then where'd she go? The toilet? Without waking me?
It was not really a matter whether she had actually gone to the toilet. It was that Anastasia, no, more like Echidna, had woken up and snuck out of the green room, alone, without so much of a word to notice Subaru, who was sleeping right there. To think she had disappeared right after the examination of the second floor, did she go to challenge Raid again, just like Julius? He did not even want to picture that.
The bed's still warm. I gotta go look for her.
Anastasia's bed was still slightly warm. There was still the fact that Patricia had woken up as well. Meant not a whole lot of time had passed in Anastasia's departure, most likely.
I'm leaving Rem to you! And, right, thanks for waking me!
Shortening his reply as much as he could, Subaru waited Patricia before heading out. Unable to figure out exactly where she could even go, his heart throbbed faster. If it were Subaru in her place, he would first want to make sure Amelia and Beatrice were okay. If so, then naturally, she would be heading towards where Julius was.
No. Wait. It's Serena who's inside her right now. No way it's going to be anything simple. Then...
He did not have any manpower to tackle this problem, even meant exposing his embarrassment of dozing off to the others. For now, he needed to reach out to the others and get their help in finding Anastasia.
Huh?
And on his way down the stairs to call the others, he stopped. He was dumbfounded and stunned, a dumb exhale leaking due to his reaction. It was the dumb voice that raises one's lip when finding something incredibly abnormal, something that definitely could not be.
Huh?
That something swiftly crossed an astonished Super's field of vision. With white wings spread wide in the narrow hallway, a bird gloriously flew.
Why is there a bird inside the tower?
The words rolled right out of his mouth at the sight of a bird, an existence that should not be present there. Pleiades Watchtower's wall had no windows connected to the outside. The tower was a building that was completely closed off from the outside world, with the only connection being the giant door on the 5th floor. At the very least, that was what Subaru believed, and his guide for the 4th floor, Beatrice herself, had said the presence of a window that could lead outside was something she did not have an inkling of.
Wait up!
Feeling something was very off, Subaru hurriedly began his pursuit of the bird as it flew away. For a moment, he hesitated. Should he follow after the bird, or should he call someone because Anastasia is absent first, then discuss the bird issue? Subaru chose to follow the bird. However, to lose sight of that bird here, he felt might lead to an even greater danger down the road. Simply put, it was a gut feeling. Of course, birds were not such gentle creatures to listen to Subaru and stop flying simply because he called after them. Gently it flew away from Subaru, further and further, deeper into the hallway. He chased and chased and chased, and before long...
It disappeared! What the hell?
He shouted upon reaching the end of the hallway. The hallway of the 4th floor itself was circular, taking after the shape of the watchtower. However, it was not connected like that, because at around the half circle, a wall stopped their progression. It was like a clock. If one started at 12 o'clock, they could go till 6 o'clock, both clockwise and counterclockwise, but no more than that, either way. Subaru knew that, and so as long as none of the doors to the rooms were opened, he was certain he would catch the bird, but...
It doesn't look like it slammed into the wall and fell. What the hell's going on here?
Confused as to where that pair of wings had disappeared, he surveyed his surroundings over and over. Unfortunately, there was no open rooms the bird could enter. It had appeared suddenly and disappeared just as suddenly. He felt like he was wrapped around the smoky veil of a dream, but he soon confirmed he was not dreaming.
These are feathers, right?
On his way back out of the hallway, Subaru found white feathers fallen on the ground. While he still held his doubts, looking at it from a situational perspective, these white feathers definitely belonged to that bird he had been chasing. They were proof that a bird had definitely existed. He could very well take them to Amelia and the other and say, there was a bird inside the tower, but it would ultimately lead to nothing. Most of all, it would not lead to where Anastasia disappeared off to.
Wait. If there's feathers lying around here, then...
There should be something here. Subaru searched the wall and floor around the place where the feathers had fallen while thinking that. He examined the stone floor and ceiling, checked the nearby rooms, and even pressed the stone bricks of the walls. However, there was nothing akin to a trick to be found, and he felt only his pulse quicken with each passing moment. Really need help. And it was precisely at that moment. It was when he was moving his palm over the place the feathers had fallen. His fingers had brushed against the wall right beside there. Or so he had thought. In reality, he realized his finger had slipped through the wall as if it were an illusion. Even when he carefully tried to press his fingers against it, they went through, so it was no optical illusion.
But I'm pretty sure I've checked the walls around here pretty well.
That was not to say he had failed in searching properly, but only the wall above his waist was solid. An illusion had been set lower than that. An illusionary wall that covered the entrance. Last time you'd see something like this was back when Beetlejuice and the witch cults were hiding in that cavern.
Oh, to win it all.
If one went into a crawl, they could pass through the illusionary wall. After a good moment of hesitation, he decided to crawl through and get to the other side. The bird had gone through that way, most likely. If this led to the outside of the tower, or maybe another part of the tower then. The darkness beyond the wall did not last as long as he expected. Subaru dove out the illusionary wall and took a deep breath, like someone coming back up from a dive underwater. He was holding his breath while inside the darkness for no apparent reason. He quickly noticed outside air that flew across his face. A cool breeze.
Whoa.
He opened his eyes, slowly adjusting them to the darkness of the outside world. Spreading out in all directions, over the vast horizon and under the night were the sand dunes, seen from a height unfathomable. And watching over the spectacle was the dark sky, spotted with countless twinkling stars. And there,
Huh?
awaiting in the place that was supposedly the watchtower's balcony, her purple hair fluttering in the breeze, surrounded by flocks of birds, was Anastasia. And that's the chapter.
Yay!
Woo! Chapter 31! A long one.
Good job, Gold.
You did an amazing job, dude.
Amazing.
Yay! That was a long
Excellent.
as heck one.
Yeah.
It sure was 26 pages.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of talking, so at least there was that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whole
it's
chapter
on
just to
three
find out who
episodes.
cooks dinner.
Who's cooking?
It feels weird seeing Subaru about to go to bed because we haven't really seen that since Arc 2. And a bit of Arc 3. It's just so strange just being like, oh yeah, bedtime.
Yeah, he usually just visits Rem when she's like there and he's like doing something. You
Mhm.
really get to see him
Mhm.
actually visit her while it's nighttime, like he always does. But we don't really have it written out.
I think there was one moment in Arc 4 where he's going to bed next to Otto, trying to wait out the second time he's going through the loops.
Yeah, there's that one time in the church, if I'm remembering right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting seeing. I love Subaru and Julius's dynamic, especially in this arc. It's so interesting to see, like, the prodding of them both trying to figure out what each other are thinking. Because
Yeah.
Julius is like, I can read you on a surface level because you're showing that, but there's also a little part of Subaru that does that because he's also hiding something, right? So it's so interesting seeing Julius like pop out these random moments where he's like laughing at Subaru being silly or being really kind to him, and Subaru's like, "What the fuck?"
Well, it also means that, towards the end here, because we know that Julius is fully aware of what Subaru has come to do, that he has picked up that he does that, probably because Subaru did it on the month-long trip here, that he spotted him doing that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Kyles, did you turn on, like, a community leaderboard?
Carl's is not here right now. She's just stepped away for a bit.
All right.
Oh.
Big mystery, then.
Dun dun dun. It will never be solved.
But hey, chat a lot and send super chats if you want that #1 crown that I currently possess somehow.
You've done it to fix numbers.
Wait.
Who's our most crowned viewer?
It's me.
Oh, nice.
It was me.
King. It's
XP.
pretty Barry.
So
But yeah, I mean, like this chapter is very cool. I like all the character interactions. I think it's cute seeing. I mean, like there's really good points about Ram actually being a good cook, and it's sort of implied here, and I've always believed this, and I think it's pretty much confirmed here, which is like Ram is actually good at all the things that Rem was good at. I just think that she couldn't allow herself to take it away from Rem.
Yeah, I think when they're even going over like what both twins are good at in the very beginning, cooking was one of the ones like, yeah, my sister can cook, but I do all the cooking because I'm better.
Yeah. I think it's a way of like, her allowing Rem to Christian for the perceived wrong Rem has, But yeah, I mean, I really like it. I think it's cute seeing. We talked about this before, the mob beasts were made by gluttony to feed everybody. So yeah, they're all edible, which makes entirely sense, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you consider something that tastes so bad, it would probably make most people immediately vomit edible.
Well, it's not poisonous, I should say. Yeah. Which means that, yeah, her warped view of what making food for everybody looked like is still warped, but it's not like she was, just being a complete fool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like that we get to see so many different sides of Subaru this chapter. We get to see like the really fun, jolly side, the exasperated side of him just being so confused by Shawla's weirdness, and then just the panicking Subaru immediately thinking, "Oh, there's something abnormal happening. So who's died? What's happened? What's gone wrong?"
Immediately suspicious of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a normal situation, his mind immediately goes to, uh-oh, what just happened?
And that's just like an actual whole ass trauma response. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
but to be fair, it's also a valid reaction from him because every time something goes abnormal, it always ends up going wrong.
Imagine if she was just going to the bathroom. Like, what would happen then? It would be kind of funny.
It'd be so
I mean,
awkward.
The invisible door led to the ladies' room instead of the balcony.
And then we get one of those weird etchy anime
Occupied.
moments.
Subaru, what you doing here? Get out!
He did that in episode 1 of the anime. He walked into
did.
the girls' bathroom because he couldn't read the signs.
Yeah,
Right.
a demi-human
Yeah.
girl smacked him across the face.
Oh, that's funny. I thought it was when he was going into like their bar or whatever. Maybe it was only in the anime.
Oh, he
Or
goes
was it
into
That
loads
was
of
a
different
demi-human man that
establishments.
threw him into the river.
Yeah,
Yes.
Oops.
but yeah,
Yeah,
it's really hard. I think to like, it's for Subaru especially where he's always at that level where he's never fully resting and he's kind of just on edge and watching. That has just been a thing that he's gained over time, and I don't know if he's ever gonna live that down. Like even at the end of the story, will he ever? Do you think lose that edge? I don't think so.
I mean, like, this exact scenario has happened before, though, right? Because it's Arc 4, just, the whole
Yeah.
person in bed is gone. Oh, fuck. Oh, shit. I gotta go find the person immediately.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he's getting more flashbacks.
Also, if there's a creature in a place that doesn't belong there and they have no explanation how they got there, like there's a non-zero chance that that's lust, and they have
Yeah.
to be careful about that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or
Versus
another
Forest.
Mar beast of some weird kind.
Yep.
I mean, the last time that happened, he got eaten alive, so.
Yum! What if this bird was white? Now that would be terrifying.
Oh my god.
Has the fucking horn on it, too?
Yeah.
The horn.
Red eyes.
Mm-hmm.
We have red eyes. Its beak is just a bit too big. Like, unsettlingly big.
Uncanny Valley.
Opens
It's
its
just a bunch
beak,
of
you just see
seagulls.
rows and rows upon of teeth.
To you guys, I really hope I kept muting it on stream. My cousins were just doing their stuff before bed, but they're a little loud, so I'm very sorry if they distracted you while we were recording.
I don't think it was too much bleed. I don't think so.
Okay. As long
Unless
as-
change Subaru, don't know. Probably. I mean, the
Okay.
Dragon's Blood did, but
Wahoo.
Woohoo!
You guys ready?
I'll
for
ask now that you're
Lost
back.
Chains, you motherfucker.
Giles,
yeah?
did you
Yeah.
turn on a community leaderboard?
No. I saw
Yeah.
that too. I was like, what the fuck is this shit?
What is going on?
Why
That
is
must be
this
something
happening?
new.
I didn't know there was a
It's-
Studio Reverie community
Now it
ranked
makes me want to be
competitively.
competitive, and I don't like that.
Casual
Oh, shit,
Studio
I lost
Reverie
my crown.
versus competitive Studio Reverie.
Ranked Studio Reverie.
Ranked.
Dude, I wonder if eating mobbies gives you scurvy.
Whoa, you guys get XP from it. What the fuck?
Maybe.
I
You
imagine
literally
that
do.
Daphne has designed it so that they have like all of the vitamins and like nutrition you could need.
You think she
Because
would
that's
know
literally
about
her
that
whole
stuff?
philosophy. So you just take a bite of it. It's the most abhorrent thing on the planet, but it keeps you alive.
Then what's the junk food of the mobbies? Is it the rabbits because they just they're infinite?
It's probably the fatty whale.
Yeah.
Oh, ooh, that's true.
Gusteco's like, guys, why'd you kill the rabbits? We could have kept them up here and ate them forever. We need food.
Come on. How hungry? Hungry enough to eat a what, Horse King?
How hungry?
I can't believe you would eat my
He's
pet.
how hungry with the
Wreck
horse
your
king.
pet.
I could eat a horse king. Yeah.
I'm so
Eat a
hungry I could
horse.
eat a horse king. It's
Oh
crazy.
wait, I think I get how the XP works.
Yeah, it's by like chatting and such.
It's actually a really
Yeah.
good feature for YouTube to include. I won't lie.
What in the name of?
You get to see
You gotta
if you're-
grind the
how
chats.
big of a fan you are. Yeah.
Grind in the chat.
You heard
Rise and
everyone.
grind, gamers.
Looks good for us.
I could eat a Subaru. Oh, so you're the rabbits?
Ooh.
You know, if you got something like the Olgarm that didn't actually eat flesh and just consumed mana instead, it probably wouldn't taste as bad as the flesh-eating mob beasts.
Well, that's like, what does mana taste like?
Well, it tastes better than carnivores do.
I mean, maybe.
I think it would.
Mana.
Yummy nothing.
Delicioso.
Air.
It's probably eating magic of sorts.
I love air.
I
for
like eating
breakfast.
air. Yummy.
Air for breakfast is crazy.
I could never.
Would mana sustain you then?
I mean, it's an
Maybe if you're
energy
If you're a
source,
spirit.
technically.
Yeah.
If you're a spirit.
Yeah, if you're a spirit. I
Because
guess.
while
Would
they're
it taste
linked,
the same as eating a spirit?
Hmm.
I guess the question would turn to how tasty would a spirit taste?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Betty.
That answer is a
Does not
spoiler,
approve of
so
this,
we
I
have to
suppose.
leave it off.
Yummy, yummy.
can't discuss that.
True.
Eat all the ankle
Let's
biters.
get cooking.
Eat
You
all the
either,
ankle biters. When Shawl is hungry and they're out of
Christ.
Marbies. Ankle biters, come here!
It's time to eat the No.
Betty is not into vor, in fact.
Oh my god! All right,
God.
let's jump
And
into
with that,
chapter
ladies and
four.
gentlemen,
You gotta,
We
you
must
gotta leave,
continue.
I think.
Crazy, J.Aldi.
You gotta leave, I
Oh
think.
my god.
Wait, ready
We
for
gotta-
32?
Yeah!
Let's move on, guys. Yay.
Yay!
Are you?
Oh, hungry.
No. Yes. Who is... Oh, it's literally
It's the three of us.
Yeah.
just the
It's
three of us.
just the three of us.
Let's go.
Just the three of us.
Arc 6, Chapter 32. Just who? Before that unforeseen spectacle, Subaru could not be anything but dumbfounded as he gazed in amazement. It was a night wherein curious occurrences were happening consecutively, starting from him unintentionally dozing off to running about in search of Anastasia, or rather Aridna, who had disappeared from the green room, catching sight of a bird which was not supposed to be inside the tower and chasing after it, losing sight of that bird at a dead end, and finding a concealed passage by investigating the familiar walls and floor.
After emerging from the tunnel, what lay before was a country of snow.
That persiflage had spilled out made no contribution to explain this queer spectacle. What Subaru had passed through was not a wall nor a tunnel, and neither what lay before his eyes was a snowy country, rather a night with the wind blowing through the sand sea. Twinkling stars emerged in the sable skies, and the dim scenery of sand dunes stretching afar was visible from the watchtower's balcony. Nothing corresponded with Subaru's words. Instead of that,
Natsuki-kun?
hearing Subaru's husky mumbling, a person's shadow with hair dancing in the wind turned towards him. The young girl had her purple wavy hair down with her hand. Spherical, pale cerulean eyes, skin so fair it was distinctly visible in the darkness. Possessor of a lovely appearance. It was Anastasia, whom he had been searching for. Subaru hesitated for a single instant upon her call.
It sure is the ideal picturesque scenic spot in the middle of the night, huh?
Hiding his initial astonishment under his tongue, Subaru shrugged his shoulders before Anastasia. Upon his gesture and the topic he had brought up, Anastasia smiled faintly, saying, "Sure as."
'Tis true the view's great, but it's sure sad that the scenery's all black. Would have been different had just the town been visible far away too.
That's true. But the charm of glancing into the sea of night isn't so bad either, you know. Besides, even if you say that.
Saying so, Subaru pointed his finger toward the sky, instead of the unbroken view. Hooked by that, Anastasia too looked up into the sky. Visible was the entirety of the starry sky.
The air's cold and clear, and stars are really visible. It sure is romantic, isn't it?
'Tis true the stars are pretty, and I agree the air's clear. But it makes you feel something aside just viewing the stars, no?
And that something would be?
The fact that the stars are visible itself. Was there ever a night where the stars were visible in the desert up till now?
Told by Anastasia in seeming amazement, Subaru clapped his hands, saying, "Ah!" As she had pointed out, it was indeed marvelous to be able to view the stars from the balcony like this, should the journey through the sand sea up until now be taken into consideration. It was impossible to spot the glitter of stars from the area surrounding Pleiades' watchtower, because
The miasma's dark and thick, and we must have spanned across the sky like clouds after all.
For that not to be the case here means that this tower alone is unaffected by the miasma. Or perhaps it might be at a height above the enshrouding miasma.
At this height, well, it ain't impossible.
though he noticed only after viewing the scenery from the balcony, their current altitude, the level pertaining to the 4th floor of the watchtower, was not at a height of a few dozen meters above ground, but at an altitude of several hundreds of meters. Though it did not actually feel that way, the stairway from the 5th floor up to the 4th was of that length, was the meaning.
But still, I don't know if it's accurate to judge distance in the middle of the tower from this spot.
Standing parallel to the outer wall, Subaru looked up towards the tower instead of the scenery from the balcony, inside. If his conjecture was correct, regardless of being at a position above the miasma, the summit of the tower, seemingly piercing through the clouds, could not possibly be seen. It was far too high up, regardless of the darkness. That was why the stairway to the 2nd floor had been more than 400 steps. Therefore, it was unquestionable that the tower was wasteful in its capacity. Anyhow. Restraining his thoughts regarding the stars and the tower's height, Subaru had his eyes glance towards Anastasia. Elegantly having her lips smile, with her hands behind her hips, Anastasia made no suspicious movement. All signs of vigilance or hostility were non-existent as well. At the very least, he confirmed she possessed no unconcealed animosity.
So, what's your excuse for this situation?
Excuse?
Stealthily leaving the bedroom late at night? Going through a secret passage nobody knows about? Playing with birds in the night breeze? Way too suspicious.
Subaru raised his jaw and questioned Anastasia, who had a mystified expression. Birds. Yes, birds. In this place, Subaru and Anastasia were facing each other, but multiple other spectators crowded the balcony aside from just those two. With not the slightest movement, they were birds which continued watching over the situation, like artificial articles. Not one or two birds. They were not in such gentle numbers at all. The number of birds halted on the outer edge of the balcony with their wings resting was lower than 50. Numbers which would make one think it was an entire horde, but the reason he hesitated to label it as a horde was because the variety of the birds was not uniform. A white bird, a blue bird, a black bird, a spotted bird, a large bird, a tiny bird, a slim bird, a plump bird, birds of mixed variety with no sense of oneness had assembled as a single set. That truth alone was quite bizarre, but what made Subaru feel even more ominous was the behavior of the birds which had constructed this spectacle. Despite such a multitude of birds present, not a single flap could be heard, let alone a chirp. It was not confirmed whether the birds possessed the intelligence to mutually understand each other's will, but at the very least, these birds, without any sense of oneness, had their intent determined as one.
It can't be helped that Natsuki couldn't feel uneasy like this, but...
Regarding such suspicion of Subaru's, Anastasia had her hand touch her cheek.
Secret passage? That really is an exaggeration, ain't it? After all, Natsuki couldn't manage coming here, too.
That's... a bird sort of led me, you know.
In that case, that's the same for me, too. I was just strolling inside the tower at night. Then a bird jumped out of nowhere. I got curious, wondering what was up with that, and ended up getting here. Why won't you trust me?
Anastasia straightened her eyes, as she let a bird she was holding with both of her hands fly freely into the sky. Though obvious, it was not a convincing explanation. He had no basis to deny it, but there was no way something so convenient had happened. Pigeonholing himself, that was the conclusion Subaru arrived at.
This bird is...
I wonder what's up with these kids.
That's what I want to ask.
The gaze of the birds watching their exchange from a distance felt apprehensive, though the same was also went for the evasive Anastasia's attitude. It was difficult to read emotions in the eyes of birds, or perhaps they truly wielded no emotion. He could feel the alienation which would make him think that way. Just what were these birds, this balcony, this Anastasia thinking?
Knowing nothing like me, that's way too convenient a story for me to swallow.
I'd also like to say something about Natsuki-kun not knowing anything, but it's really troubling. Everything's been so confusing after arriving here.
Dear oh dear. Saying so whilst putting one hand on her eyebrows, Anastasia displayed a behavior of drowning in lamentation. Looking at Anastasia without letting his guard down, Subaru suddenly remembered something about birds. That birds flew over the Algoria sand dunes in the direction of Pleiades' watchtower. He had heard that in the bar they had stopped to prepare for crossing over the sand sea, with the purpose of heading toward the tower. The bartender had told them to look for birds in case they got puzzled over the way through the sand sea. Fortunately, Subaru and the rest had not made a blunder like being stranded in the desert, so it turned out to be a warning he almost entirely forgot about, but...
Looking at this now, makes me think that was not necessarily just some rumor.
Despite receiving Subaru's whispering, the birds gave no response. They merely had their wings folded silently, and were letting their wings rest as if they despised flying in twilight. Despite being exposed to the chilling breeze, they did not huddle close to each other and refrained from sharing warmth. They merely had their gaze towards Subaru and Anastasia like exquisite dolls.
These kids are always like that, and I'm at a loss too.
Judging from my experience, that's a bit impossible for me to believe.
Judging from experience, you say?
Based on my experience, upon heedlessly coming across a scene like this, it's generally guaranteed that your life is in danger.
Subaru had an abundance of near-death experience due to his heedless behavior, starting from being beaten to death by Rem when he was loitering around the old mansion at night. A lot of stuff that was being left out had happened back then, but Subaru's experience taught and made him conclude that heedless behavior was paramount to death in its essence. And judging from those experiences of his, he thought of this situation to be quite dangerous.
If that's so, then better add a new pattern to those judgments based on experiences of yours. They won't be happening this time. For the cowardly Natsuki-kun, the worst probability is if I'm plotting something. So I lured you to this tower and spun up some outrageous conspiracy to harm Natsuki-kun or Amelia-san, or the rest beyond repairs. Much thought, isn't it?
Having gotten struck by a bullseye, Subaru slightly stiffened himself up. Looking at how Subaru was acting, Anastasia smiled with an easy to get.
Relax. I'm not thinking about something so roundabout. And I ain't got no hostility against Natsuki-kun, nor anyone else in this tower. Not counting for the examiners.
Schuller and Reed, huh?
Mm-hmm.
The moment he voiced those lines, Anastasia silenced herself with a bitter expression. Looking at that response, Subaru spilled his voice, saying, "Ah."
You didn't hear about it because you were sleeping, right? About that guy who recently appeared for the second floor's examination? He's Reed Estrella, the first-generation sword saint. It seems like the arrangement was to have him appear from the past.
This tower has a questionably outrageous layout. I wonder just what its creator is thinking.
Receiving Subaru's explanation, Anastasia lowered her voice and added one more thing at the end of her repulsed comment. Sensing the omission of the Kararagi dialect's accent in her tone, Subaru halted his breath. Up until now he had intended to treat her and deal with her as Anastasia. But after all, her true nature, before his eyes like this, was that of...
Right now, only you and I are here. How about talking about your heart out frankly?
What?
To be honest, I can't make any progress with you, who's wearing the mask of someone else. No matter what I'm told, it's impossible for me to trust you down to my very core. That's why.
You say that you wish to exchange words with me. Not the me who acts as Anna.
That instant, Anastasia's presence changed as if responding to Subaru's proposition. The mood surrounding her had completely changed, though her form didn't change. The sense of existence he was standing off against definitely altered. The emotions dwelling in her eyes, the expression interweaving her thoughts, had changed completely. And, before Subaru, who halted his breath, witnessing this transformation, the artificial spirit Echidna, who had been acting as Anastasia, slowly turned toward the outer edge of the balcony. With not a railing to prevent falling, only a fence of pathetic height is all the outer edge possessed. She slowly placed her hips on that fence, gently caressed the head of the small white bird standing still right beside her, and...
It is indeed the first time that we have exchanged words with just the two of us all alone here.
Saying so, she accepted Subaru's proposal with a fleeting smile.
Won't you come here?
No. I mean, it doesn't have a railing, and my counterplans for safety are way too incomplete, so nope.
Not at all. I will not push you off, even if you get close with your guard down, you know?
No way am I trusting that tone. You're just like the original when it comes to stuff like that.
Subaru distorted his lips before Echidna, who was sitting at a boundlessly hazardous spot, and invited him without any malice. But perhaps she did not like the way he phrased his refusal, and furrowed her eyebrows frankly. And then she said,
You see?
And raised a single finger as if lecturing him.
I have told you several times, but how about you stop viewing me together with that original witch, or whatever? To say it clearly, it is nothing but unpleasant to be compared with someone unknown. That is, even if it is my own creator.
That goes for this manner of speaking too, but... I guess so. My bad. I'll be careful.
Kindly be.
Echidna appealed to Subaru with the same appearance and voice as Anastasia. In all honesty, from what he had pointed, it was truly just like the tone of the ill-natured witch Subaru was acquainted with. Her insistence consisted of a circumstance whereby he must earnestly nod in assent. The truth is, if Subaru were told she was in existence similar to Echidna, it would be an opinion that would make him respond with something terribly dishonorable as well.
With that being said, your worries are quite right. Seeing someone night after night head to a place noticed by nobody, all alone, would naturally make one suspicious. However, on top of accepting those misgivings, as a matter of course, I shall deny your misgivings once again.
You sure are bold to be touching that bird without even being vigilant.
Did you hear what I said just now?
I heard it indeed.
Immediately, their comments were at a crossing paths with regards to each other. However, it could not be helped that what was far more mysterious to Subaru was the small bird. How she was caressing the ominous small bird's head like it was some artificial article, rather than her statements. Things would have been different had this been in a park in the afternoon and the birds gave a more natural reaction, though.
Aren't you afraid that you'll get killed if they, swarm together and peck your entire body?
Well, your imagination is far more frightening. You will not say that this is one of your judgments based on experience, will you?
You see, something happened where cute-looking rabbits jumped on me with all their energy, and things turned out like that.
Thus, ever since he had been nervous of a large number of animals gathering at one spot, piling up multiple experiences of return by death, he had confirmed and could claim that there existed no easy death. But that memory was a remarkably awful manner of dying.
You are actually making a pale face, so I will not put pressure on you. It is not as if I am affectionately familiar with these birds either.
Perhaps due to seeing Subaru's face get increasingly pale, Echidna promptly retracted her hand from the small bird. And then, putting both of her hands on her knees, she once again gazed towards Subaru, saying,
Well then, you're suggesting to me to let my heart out frankly. I wonder, what do you want to talk about with myself who has forgotten about behaving like Anna?
For now, your relationship with this place, and these birds.
Regarding that, I can only respond with what I had answered as Anna. I was led to this place by a bird, as well. Until then, I had not the fanciest clue. Just?
Despite the dejection for a lack of substitution of that response, Subaru raised his eyebrows in pursuit of a faint catch to it. Slightly hesitating upon his reaction, Echidna continued.
To be completely honest, I was thinking of asking you the same thing.
Asking me the same thing?
I was intending to be Anna, so it'd come off as a joke. So it may have come off as a joke. But it isn't. I found myself here as if I was led to this place. And now I'm having a dialogue with you in this place. With you, who is standing in front of the entrance to return to the tower.
Huh?
You are an acquaintance of Shala's, the keeper of this tower. At the very least, she treats you with that conviction completely. Taking that into consideration, being formed on top of just the two of us, being in this place does seem cowardly to me, but...
Engulfed by the words Echidna voiced, Subaru was unable to interrupt her comments. Before that, Echidna cut her words off once, and whilst retaining Anastasia's face, presented a question. That question was...
Natsuki Subaru, just who are you?
Just who, you say? But...
Let us go back to the time before heading to Priscilla. After the ceremony conferring honors of fulfilling the subjugation of the white whale and the subjugation of the sloth 1 year ago, Anna conducted an investigation regarding you.
That which Echidna had revealed perhaps had been one of the plans in Anastasia Camp's strategy for the royal selection. Investigating Subaru, who had accepted the conferral of decorations as the knight of the rival candidate Amelia, must be something which could be called theory in a fight of this type. But the great merchant Anastasia Hoshin, who led the Hoshin Company, was...
Your background could not be gained knowledge of. Anna complained that the investigation, the most minimal information alone, was extremely difficult. Regarding that, I believe that perhaps the people around you were doing something rather than you yourself. That's what the result was.
Controlling the information regarding Subaru, if there was someone with a deep connection to the camp doing that, then the first one on the list would be Roswell, followed by Otto and Klein, perhaps. Anyhow, it would not be strange of them to be doing that, and they were either far too unkind or far too boorish to go out of their way and refrain from informing that truth to Subaru.
After all, what could be reached what was only around the little happening you got involved with in the royal capital, right before the commencement of the royal selection? When Knight Reinhard discovered the candidate felt, there's evidence that he happened to catch sight of you, but that is all.
Any records prior to that were not supposed to exist. Henceforth, Echidna, though it was Anastasia in this case, Anastasia's investigation had followed Subaru's footsteps nearly perfectly, excluding the fact that that was an insufficient result for them. Echidna narrowed her eyes as Subaru silently wondered how he should respond. Until now, he'd had multiple experiences of being unable to convey the information from return by death and burying it within himself, and subsequently suffering due to being unable to share the information. However, this was a first-timer for him. For the question to just be who Natsuki Subaru was, and the unidentified nature of his origins acting as chains.
I...
And that's how I just lined it all up.
Echidna unfolded both of her arms before Subaru, who tried to somehow wring out some words with a serious expression. Her tone was far too indiscreet, as Subaru stood dumbfounded. Receiving Subaru's reaction, Echidna nodded, saying, with a satisfied expression.
Anna and I recognized you as a newcomer knight with a pile of extremely meritorious deeds. With that kind of unknown background, that was, until Priscilla. I have no words for how that impression changed with the fight of the witch cult in Priscilla, but I am aware that it is again changing slightly after coming to this watchtower. I felt anxious for being alone with you late at night in a space beyond sights of anyone. So even if I was on guard against you, I want you to forgive it as something which could not be helped.
Folding her open arms, Echidna tilted her neck while smiling. And taken aback by the words he had heard from her, Subaru mumbled and moved his dry lips and earnestly pondered over how he should react. However, during the time he was pondering, he suddenly noticed that the fingers in Echidna's hands atop her knees wielded so much strength that they would turn white.
You... Don't tell me. Are you seriously scared?
That comment is slightly upsetting. Just as an example, what kind of relationship do you actually have with Shala?
Without responding to Subaru's question, Echidna fired back a separate question.
I met Shala for the first time here. I don't know anything.
The examination of the 3rd floor. Was it a coincidence that you cleared it so quickly?
It was a coincidence.
In that case, what about you going through the secret passage camouflaged in such a way it cannot be noticed at first glance, and calling out to me in a situation where I happen to be alone?
What resumed persistently was Echidna's bitterness directed towards Subaru. By stockpiling questions before him, she was conveying this.
How about you? Try imagining being in my position.
But still, due to various factors, I estimate you as an existence who has a low possibility of being hostile. And I want you to think of me revealing the depths of my heart as proof of my good faith.
With her hands on her slim chest, Echidna demonstrated that she had voiced her true mental state through her attitude. From Subaru's perspective as well, he very much wanted to agree with Echidna's words, now that he once again looked back onto his origins and the suspicious nature of his actions. Very much so, but...
It seems like my creator left deep wounds upon your heart, does it not?
The behavior of the artificial spirit Echidna indeed closely resembled that of the Witch of Greed Echidna. So no matter how much good faith she devoted, it was difficult to truly trust her. This itself could precisely be called as the witch's lingering scent.
I get what you're saying. I'm convinced. Keeping whether I'm able to trust or not aside.
Your troubles have been conveyed quite well.
That is, even if you and I are meeting here as a coincidence, then what's this place? What do you think this balcony-like place was made for?
As a matter of fact, even if this Echidna were plotting something, there existed no evidence that would make her open her mouth. He complied with her not because he trusted her, but because he considered it an inevitability. However, that and the fact that this place was a concealed space are entirely different subjects. Due to being concealed in everything, there must be some kind of worth to its existence.
I have a hypothesis regarding that. Do you remember what happened 3 days ago? In the Sand Sea?
3 days ago. That had been before we reached the tower. Some totally messy stuff came to mind.
At the occasion of that ruckus, a white light attacked us where we were being pursued by the courtesan bears. It rather seemed like that was Shala's doing. Then, this place is...
Her scaffold for observing the desert.
Before Echidna's hypothesis reached its end, Subaru clicked his fingers. Her conjecture was convincing. The truth was, she had continued to snipe those who approached the tower with what she called Jigoku no Sogeki from a long distance. He had wondered how she did that with there not being a single window or way to view outside the watchtower.
Perhaps there are places like this connected through the circumference of the tower. From what it seems, the space is not the direction from which we approach the tower.
What about the birds?
The birds are an enigma. Even if they are touched like this, they give no response. It is just as they still perhaps do have a warm body temperature. They are not actually artificial. If possible, I would like to dissect them.
Looking down onto the birds beside her, Echidna straightened her spherical eyes with cruelty. However, as she drew her finger back, she stared intensely at that finger.
Unfortunately, I didn't want to put any more burden upon Anna's body. Things would proceed faster if you dissect the birds.
Well, I'll do it if it's really needed. No matter what.
In the 1 year he had spent living in a different world ever since being summoned, Subaru had gained some experience of hunting birds or hare. Of course, killing for the sake of eating and killing for the sake of experimenting felt way too different.
After killing it. As for eating it.
Yes, there was also a problem of remaining food supplies. Then, I would like to request around 20 of them.
Bloody bastard! Don't you know about Legend of Zelda?
Differently requested to reap the lives of a large number of birds, Subaru raised his voice harshly. Echidna rounded her eyes, having been yelled at over knowledge she had no way of knowing. That aside, killing 20 would indeed aggravate his spirit.
Besides, upon killing, there would also be some movement in these countless birds too, you know?
That seems undeniably frightening.
In response to Subaru's distress, Echidna also put her hand on her mouth. The birds gave no reaction to the perilous conversation of the two, but their gazes alone were unchangingly fixed upon the outsides to this place, or rather, Subaru and Echidna. With the word sky burial accidentally appearing in his mind, Subaru detained Echidna's prompt judgment.
If we're going to do it, then let's do it after making some preparations. For the time being, let's keep it for later.
No attitude of running away either. Huh. Got it. Very well. The truth is, it is difficult to even think about what would be gained from investigating these birds.
Please stop with an atmosphere of stuff like the spirit of inquiry or comments on success of thirst for knowledge.
He thought that Echidna, despite truly not knowing the nature of the witch, maintained a behavioral style similar to the original, and resultantly he never let his guard down. Henceforth, Subaru ignored that aspect and threw a question towards the spirit aspect of Echidna, which was unlike the witch.
I didn't really confirm it properly, but how's Anastasia's son?
Just like earlier. Even now, Anna is continuing to sleep within the depths of this body. I have never dwelled in this body for this long, so I would be lying if I said I'm not getting impatient.
Impatient?
Subaru considered the nuance and thought she must be talking about wanting to return to her former body, but Echidna shook her head left and right, saying that's not it.
So far as it goes, Anna and I have a contracted relationship of a spirit and a user. Though it is an imperfect relationship, an imperfect spirit, along with an imperfect user. I believe I have spoken about Anna's body.
About there being some defects in the gate and stuff?
That is close to the relationship between the present you and Beatrice. What is different from you two is that Anna's body has no receptacle to receive mana at all. In order to maintain her contract with me, she has no choice but to spend her odd.
He thought of that explanation as roughly the same as what he had heard before. However, Echidna believed Subaru's understanding was rather shallow, so she put a finger on her chest and...
This state is equivalent to me manifesting in Anna's stead, which means Anna's ode is being eaten up at an increased rate. Even now, moment by moment, Anna's ode is being graded.
I believe ode was, like, the soul itself of the person, which means...
On top of assenting to the dangers of having contract with me, Anna took my hand. Ever since then, I hypothesized that someday this end would arrive, but now is rather soon.
That was why the body must be returned to Anastasia as soon as possible. That was how Echidna brought explaining the situation Anastasia and her had been placed into an end. Upon hearing what she had said, Subaru realized that he had been taking their circumstance far too lightly.
With that body, in that tattered state, can she really become something like a monarch?
Do you mean that in the sense that you want Anna to abandon that privilege for the sake of her own master?
Don't joke around! Nothing like that!
Anna will not draw back, no matter what, nor will she give up. I know that.
Echidna asserted flatly before Subaru, who stepped ahead trying to raise his voice. Overawed by that vigor, Subaru blinked his eyes and then timidly had his lips tremble.
Does Anastasia's son want her own country so badly, Even if she gets her hands on it, she might have to immediately let go of it.
No, perhaps shorter than what normal people would. Anna herself will utilize that short span of time way better than others. Besides, Anna has a reason to not give up the throne.
Against Subaru's powerless voice, Echidna declared putting her trust in Anastasia into it, and recited her reason to not give up the throne, that was...
Because she wished for it.
Echidna, who had already stood up, conceded towards him and faced Subaru head-on from the center of the balcony, gazing into the black eyes right ahead of her as Subaru stood immobile at the words the pale cerulean eyes had conveyed to him. A heaviness unlike that at Pleiades' watchtower of the examination pressed Subaru down. Immobile, speechless, nor did Echidna say anything. And instead of the motionless two, only the sound of flapping wings slashed through the chilling night. The sound of fluttering wings came from behind, as it was appended to the flock of birds who were resting their wings. Once again, a single bird flew towards the balcony from behind. Just as before, Subaru had been sitting with his back turned toward the outer wall of the watchtower. If a bird flapped its wings behind him, then it would unquestioningly arrive from the interior of the watchtower. Echidna, Subaru, they had both reached this place upon being led by birds. Then, naturally, that was also the case with the flapping of the third bird. What is the meaning of what you were saying just now? A voice, somewhat astonished, somewhat in disbelief, echoed in the balcony. The birds spread their wings wide at once upon the voice of the standing man, and, giving rise to the terrible sound of flapping wings like a cloudburst, the birds attained flight lacking all vacillation, toward the night sky, toward the desert enveloped in the dusk, leaving Subaru and Echidna to seemingly drown in an ocean, along with Julius Jaculius.
Yay!
Uh-oh.
Reggie!
Trouble in paradise!
The jig is up.
Sorry for the quietness for a bit there, everybody. I did not have my gain adjusted for Anna. No, you are not crazy. I just did not have my ASMR set up.
I thought you sounded great the whole time.
I really do enjoy the interactions between Spirit Echidna and Subaru because, like, it's like Subaru at his most harsh and like honest, I think, than with any of the other characters.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an interesting dynamic to see, especially with Subaru always being on the back foot because of his past experiences with Echidna too.
At the point where Echidna doesn't even need to try. Like, he's backing himself up into corners.
I mean, he only was scared and suspicious because she was walking around herself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't trust her from the beginning.
No. And he admits that. But then we also get the flip side of we're seeing it from her perspective where, wait, hold on. Subaru's extremely suspicious too. And obviously we've seen that in earlier arcs, right? But I think sometimes a bit of that is like lost along the way because everyone in the main group typically trusts Subaru, right?
So yeah.
It's like oh, Anna investigated you and looked into your background, and it seems like you just kind of randomly existed in the royal capital one day and you have no footprints before.
Yeah, like you showed up at
you
the
a
royal
pawn?
selection. That's the only thing that you ever did.
Yeah.
Because the Reinhardt stuff had to be like that had to be redacted and covered up because Reinhardt
that was probably
supposed
straight
to
up
be
to the Wise Man Council information too. So
yeah.
Which also then means if that information leaked, then that council is you know, a bit of corruption in there.
I imagine that it probably leaked from Rom spreading it to others looking for Felt based on the people who was there, and then that eventually got to her. But nothing beyond
that's
that.
the likely thing. Yeah.
Most likely. Though insane that Subaru got investigated.
I don't think it's that insane. I mean, like, The entire camp is just kind of a bunch of weirdos if you try to look into them and their backstories. That all just kind of ended up there somehow. Like,
I mean,
Otto is the
Garfield
only
appears
one
out
that
of
you could.
nowhere.
Otto is the only one you could trace back and get like a solid, decent answer that explains everything about him.
Yeah.
But it, in a way, it also makes it like a how the fuck did he reach that high? He's just like a guy.
He's just a guy who
Guy.
suddenly became the minister or whatever.
If
Actually, no,
Subaru's
it's
like,
okay because everyone forgets him anyways.
if Subaru's the average like hikikomori or NEET from Japan, fucking Otto is like the average merchant bro around like,
The average
world.
oil seller.
Yeah.
Potion
It's really interesting too, because if you really think back on it too, Reinhard, like one of the first things he asked Subaru was like, "Oh, are you a foreigner? You must be." Like I can kind of get from your vibe and appearance, like, where do you hail from? Reinhard was immediately being like, "Oh, so where are you from, bro?" Because with the Gunica being in the situation it is, any foreigner in your country could potentially be a foreign agent right now doing something to fuck you up. So.
Well, yeah, that was a whole part of
Wasn't
Arc
that
2
like-
was Super getting suspicious or realizing that Roswell was incredibly suspicious of him as a foreign agent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the whole like revelation of the when Roswell explained the we're kind of in a political crisis. He went, "Oh, shit, I'm kind of in a bad spot right now."
And also, him having black hair is like extremely uncommon, not just in the world, but like in Lagunica especially.
So that just makes the suspicion levels go way
Yeah,
up.
like everything about him makes you suspicious of him if you're the average layperson or someone in political power in Lagunica.
Black hair, huh? Oh, no, I guess not.
Foreigner hair color.
Yeah, because everyone, most people's hair colors in Lagunica are very like brightly colored. I think the only one that I can
Yeah.
remember that was like a normal brown was like Wilhelm when he was younger.
Yeah, young Wilhelm.
But most people have like very like colorful and accented colors for their hair in Lagunica.
There were some people in the Oni clan that had normal colored hair.
Normal
too.
colored hair, yeah. But I don't remember there being any with black hair. I could be wrong.
There was not.
I
So
don't-
so far,
Yeah, I
only
don't think
Subaru and
so
Elsa have had black hair in the anime.
Yeah. Meili's like close, but that's not.
It's described
Still
as
not-
brown in the light
yeah.
novels and blue in the anime. So
Yeah.
it's
It's
very
it's
specifically
strange. Yeah.
That's
Inconsistency.
weird.
Very strange inconsistency on that part, I must say.
What were they cooking?
Or were they just cooked?
We will
What
never
did
know.
Tappy mean by this?
It was just a mistranslation, guys. I'm sorry.
Tapei's colorblind. When they show him the color, he's like, yeah, that's brown, that's brown.
Well, he does
Sort of
call
mistranslated
Subaru's
into
brown eyes
salt.
black very often.
Yeah.
For gore.
I forgot.
I forgot. Sorry, accident.
Tealdi, are you still good for chapter 33?
Hold on. There. Sorry.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hi. Yes. Good. Always.
Yay!
Woo!
I mean, if we're counting brown as normal, we got like Camberley.
Mm-hmm. It's also blonde people. That's pretty standard.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah, blonde
abnormal.
is like, yeah.
It's specifically the black hair, for whatever reason.
Yeah, specifically black, which is curious.
Curious. Oh my gosh.
Perhaps we will learn
Yeah?
more in future arcs.
Hi.
Maybe. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Looks at the camera, smiles.
Smiles. Stay tuned. Wink, wink.
Smile.
Smile. All right, y'all. You ready for this last chapter? Last one of phase 2.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm hyped.
Hype,
That's the
hype,
best
hype.
Oh yeah.
Tail, do you remember how to
Do it.
read the chapter name?
I do.
I love it.
let's fucking
Remember how to
go.
read.
Do you remember how to read? It's not like we've been forcing you to do it.
Wait, no. Ah, crap. Wait, hold on.
Oh,
I don't remember.
Shit.
Jesus.
Uh-oh.
I'm kidding.
Let me got to her again.
No.
And
This doesn't apply to me because I can't read.
Giles, just as a heads up,
Hi.
there will be a gain change that you will need to make for the last line of this chapter.
Yeah.
Pretty major one.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Don't worry, I'll see it coming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, oh,
That
fuck.
was
you
in
will,
all
yeah.
capital letters.
Changing the gains, just trying to. I've gotten to a point where I know Chase's Subaru so well that I can feel an incoming gain increase, decrease. This, yeah,
I'm sorry, and I thank you for your hard work.
I do my best. I'm a miracle worker, you see.
I get a little too into it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
No. Whoa,
Pays the bills.
You're amazing.
If you really squint at it
Yeah.
and times it by like a billion.
All right, everybody, lock in. Let's go.
Hey. Oh, we good? We good?
Mm-mm.
Cooperate with me, Mike. Come on, it's your time to shine.
God damn it, Michael.
All right. Here we go. Arc 6, Chapter 33. Left behind by a myriad of fluttering feathers, Abyss descended on the balcony in the night. Decorative birds spread their wings fearlessly and took to flight into the murky night sky. One could almost say that falling from that lonely sky would have been easier than remaining in this place. If only that were true, Subaru would have wholeheartedly embraced that notion. At least that would have been the worst thing, after this suffocating situation. The location was the watchtower, on a balcony hidden by the night. Julius stood there, blocking the doorway, with doubt carved into his handsome features and rigid cheeks. Within his line of sight were Subaru and Echidna, who had been secretly conversing in the night. To Julius, she would have been Anastasia, since they looked exactly alike.
What is the meaning of what you were saying right now?
In that tense, congealing space, Julius repeated these words with a sense of much tension. The bewildered content of his words was no different from the moment before, but his voice sounded weaker in this repetition, like proof of the depth of his sorrow. When did he begin listening to the conversation? Faced with Julius's question, Subaru forced his halted thoughts to move and landed on this question. When he had begun listening, that was the most important thing. The content of that conversation with Anastasia, or rather Echidna, just now, was definitely not something he should have been allowed to hear before preparations had been made. For in the conquering of this watchtower, the secrets kept by Subaru and Echidna were simply far too deeply rooted. Things ranging from artificial spirits, the witch of greed, the authority of gluttony, and their various implications. Subaru had hidden all of those from Julius, having judged that they would only complicate things and bring him nothing but suffering. Most important of all was the fact that Anastasia's consciousness was sleeping, and that right now, the one inhabiting her body was the artificial spirit Echidna. In other words...
Ah, come on. Natsuki-kun, stop looking like that.
Huh?
Suddenly, lightly poking the stiff Subaru in the chest with her finger, Echidna put on a charming smile. Her tone and attitude were so perfectly like Anastasia's that, for a moment, Subaru bulged his eyes in stupefaction and could not be entirely certain as to what was happening. Leaving Subaru behind, Echidna did a turn on the spot as if dancing, and...
I'm sorry, Julius, but it's not like we're leaving you out of the loop, you know. I just thought I'd talk with Natsuki-kun about some of the important things that'll be happening after we leave the Pleiades Watchtower. And that's all. We had to leave the green room since Rem and that ground dragon kid were there, you know. It's not like we're afraid of any kind of special secret leaking out, but I was just in the mood for something extra secretive. So we moved around, and this just happened to be the only suitable place we could find. And that's all.
Clapping her hands together in front of her chest, Echidna slightly tilted her head as if to say, "Forgive me?" That adorable gesture appeared to be just the kind of thing Anastasia would do. But unlike the one trying to distract away from the vital part of the story, Anastasia would never sink as low as this. As if attempting to cover up an unfavorable scene after the other person had already seen it, the words only came across as barren and superficial. Actually, one might as well replace the as if with certainly here. It was a very undesirable situation for Echidna, having been caught off guard. The only difference was that she just happened to be quicker than Subaru in taking action. Then...
You are not Anastasia-sama, are you? Echidna. I want you to tell me, even with it having already come to this point, the fact that you are still trying to hide it from me tells me that you probably are not a bad person by birth.
Through a faint glimmer of hesitation, Julius asked Echidna to her face. Hearing this, Echidna muttered, "Why, that's just..." and for a moment, appeared to be preparing to refute him, but...
Echidna.
Once again, Julius halted her with his call. And just like this, she turned Anastasia's face towards Subaru, an indescribable emotion stirring within those light, pale cerulean eyes. But at this point, even Subaru could not devise a way to salvage this.
Julius, where do you want us to begin?
From Anastasia-sama's body.
In response to Subaru's question, Julius replied in a choked voice. That much was more than enough to discern his disturbed emotional state. It was natural, but even so, it must be said that only a man like Julius would have been able to remain calm at a time like this, even if only on the surface. Or perhaps, it might simply have gone too far beyond his limits, too far beyond what emotions could convey.
Ever since the battle with the witch cult in the city of Pristella, Anna's consciousness has been sleeping deep inside her body. So right now, the one moving her body is not Anna herself, but I, playing her role in her stead. Until today.
Echidna probably thought it was no longer possible to go on pretending. Plainly, without any setup, she simply spoke as if laying out the facts. In the middle of defending Pristella against the witch cult, Echidna took Anastasia's place and dueled with the witch cultists. Anastasia's spirit had been asleep ever since. They had hidden this from Julius and Mercado and all the members of the Iron Fang before they set out for Pleiades' watchtower. This fact was only shared between Subaru and Echidna.
Why would you only share this information with Subaru?
He was not under the influence of the authority of the Sin Archbishop, and so he was the only person outside of the chaos of the situation. Besides, he also is a spiritual arts user that has forged a contract with an artificial spirit bearing the same roots as I, Beatrice. I must confess, this was not my original intention. However, he saw through my act as Anna, so I had no choice but to tell him.
Hearing this explanation of why only Subaru had come to know that it was Echidna inside Anastasia's body, Julius's eyes began to tremble beyond control. Echidna had been at a loss of words because she expected nothing but discomposure. Of course, because Subaru had seen through Echidna's performance.
Someone who barely knows her. Something even a stranger should notice. And yet someone who regards himself as her one and only knight did not...
Stop, you dumbass! You can't say that!
Huh?
Your situation... You were just in a bad situation. There was a huge thing that had just happened to you, and you were down in the dumps. And it wasn't just you. There was Ricardo, and Mimi, and the others as well, right? I only noticed because of something. Anyway, it just happened by chance.
Julius deriding himself with those words, Subaru attempted to put a stop to his self-injury. However, in his failure of his duty as a knight, there were no words that could console him. In reality, just what could Julius have done? Was he really to blame for this? The master he devoted his loyalty to, his comrades with whom he had sworn a vow with, his fellow knights that have always been his companions, and all the many, many more, everything he had accumulated up to now in his life as a knight, had collapsed like a wall of sand. How could he stand before them again? Stalwart, elegant, a knight. How could he ever be called that again? If being a knight meant never permitting oneself to succumb to one's pain like a common human being, then being a knight was a curse for Julius Jaculius.
It is the duty of her one and only knight to eliminate chance and be certain at all times.
Then, being her one and only knight is nothing but a troublesome title, isn't it?
Take back those words. Do not direct them to me again. Right now, I'm afraid I have lost some part of myself.
Subaru's consoling rationalization simply bounced off in the face of Julius's knightly convictions. Watching as Subaru fell speechless from the emotions clogging up his throat, Julius shook his head.
Let us get back on topic. Echidna, what is your intention?
To return this body to Anna. That is the reason I brought you all to the Pleiades Watchtower. Even more importantly than the victims of gluttony and lust.
In other words, you mean to say you never wanted this, and you have no way to restore Anastasia-sama, even if I slay you.
Placing his hand on the knight's sword at his waist, Julius narrowed his eyes and threw her this perilous question. Receiving this, Echidna cast down her eyes and gently touched her own chest.
That I am an evil spirit and have taken over Anna's body for that reason. I cannot give you any evidence to refute that speculation. So, if you are convinced that I am lying to you, even if you chose to destroy me, I cannot stop you.
But, at the end of her last syllable, Echidna continued after pausing only a beat.
But in that case, any possibility of restoring the consciousness of Anna's empty shell will be extinguished by your hand. In the worst case, it will become more difficult to even preserve her life, and there is a chance that she will die.
Echidna laid out her thoughts on Julius's suggestion of cutting her down. Then, having said this, she softly lifted her hands.
Of course, this is only a nonsense possibility. I have no choice but to come up with because I want to live. Even I cannot say for sure whether my death would be a solution. If I must die so that Anna can live, I feel like I would be all right with that. Though I really do not wish to die.
And why would you be willing to do that for Anastasia-sama?
The relationship between Anna and I is an incomplete one. And therefore, perhaps it is not right to apply it to the common way of being a spirit and a spiritual arts user.
Cutting off her words there, Echidna looked at Julius and Subaru in turn. Even though their beings were different, it seemed almost as though she envied the two of them. Quite a proper contract-bound relationship with spirits, as spiritual arts users.
I like Anna, and I have been at her side ever since she was a young child. So I do not wish to abandon her, and I want her to be happy. That is my reason. Julius, I did not reveal this fact to you, because it would have only led to unnecessary confusion. Anna herself wished to keep my existence secret, if possible. In fact, she was the reason I had remained hidden all the way until what happened in Pristella. It was thanks to that child.
Even back in Pristella, Julius had been quite shocked when Anastasia announced that she had been hiding Echidna for so long. Subaru, who had prioritized retrieving Amelia above all else, could not possibly imagine what storm must be churning within Julius's chest at that moment. Just that, in such a short span of time, what his master had kept hidden, along with the secret pertaining to the fundamentals of Anastasia herself, had all been revealed to him at a time when they should not have been revealed. Just how much must all of this be weighing on Julius?
I can understand your relationship with Anastasia-sama. It is difficult to believe everything, but I have no choice but to believe you. At least in that it would be thoughtless to do anything to you right now.
Oh, is that so? I am glad you chose rationally, Julius. I am sure Anna would be glad as well.
Letting go of the hilt of his knight's sword, Julius did not respond to Echidna's words, and only remained in silence. But he was far from having understood it, and thinking of it left him with a sense of regret. Yet, in the blink of a moment, Julius cast this out of his mind, and...
I just wish to confirm this. Anastasia-sama's ode is the price for your ability to continue to manifest yourself. So naturally, the more you strain yourself, the heavier the burden on Anastasia-sama's body will be. Is that correct?
Correct. And that is the right way to understand it. If I eat well, sleep well, get some moderate exercise, take a generally healthy approach to life, it would be just enough to counteract the toll on Anna's ode.
If that's the case, then why did you pull that stunt on the second floor?
Just as Echidna was slightly recovering herself, light-heartedly joking in between her words, Julius struck her with this unexpected question. Considering what had occurred on the second floor, it's only understandable that he would point this out.
During my fight with the examiner of the second floor, Reed Estrella, Anastasia-sama, using Anastasia-sama's body, you casted magic to support me.
It was at the time of the first clash between Julius and Reed. Faced with the overwhelming power of Reed's swordsmanship, with Julius helpless and on the verge of defeat, Echidna used her enormous magical power to direct magic toward Reed. Far from being a decisive strike, and instead the load on Anastasia's body went over her limit, and she fainted. But the problem was not the result. It was why she had done so. Just that.
The burden of that act on Anastasia-sama's body could not have been light. After saying so much, your actions are still conflicting with your claims. So why?
That's...
What Julius pointed out was also what Subaru had been wondering. Back there, Echidna had taken actions as Julius was overpowered, him carrying an expression as though he was resolved for death. There seemed to be a lie somewhere, yet it did not feel like it was precalculated. It must have been born out of pure concern. Could Echidna have chosen to help Julius simply because, while living inside Anastasia, they had already spent so much time together? Could that be all it was? However, to Subaru's doubts, and to Julius's question, Echidna only replied, "I am sorry," and deeply bowed on the spot.
Even I feel like a failure there. How should I say this? It is embarrassing to admit I'm not very proficient at it, but I made that decision from a strategic point of view.
A strategic decision?
At the time, I had no idea whether the examiner of the second floor had the intent to kill. Had I not done as I did, Julius's fighting prowess might have been lost. Of course, I wanted to avoid it for Anna. Besides, Reed Estrella had his back turned, and so it seemed a perfect opportunity in my eyes. But not only did it fail, I have caused you distress.
Apologizing, and adding one more at the end for good measure, Echidna slowly raised up her body. There were no contradictions within her explanation. While it was true that she had acted rashly based on amateur judgment, Subaru could not find any basis to refute her reasoning, emotional ones aside. Could such a story really be swallowed so easily? But before Subaru could pursue the point any further,
I understand. But please be careful not to do anything rash in the future. Not for anyone else, only for Anastasia-sama.
Understood.
What?
Julius gestured that he had understood and accepted, and nodded back at Echidna. Watching their exchange, Subaru kicked at the floor, much like he was sure if they were joking.
How can you be convinced by that?
Subaru, I am convinced. Echidna will refrain from doing anything rash in the future. What else is there to say? This is a matter between Anastasia-sama and Echidna, and between Anastasia-sama and myself. It seems you have been caught up in this by some strange mistake. But this is a matter internal to the Anastasia camp. This is not your pain to bear.
Julius, trying to distance him from the problem, Subaru clenched his back teeth. It was not as if Subaru was carrying this pain because he one-sidedly wanted to.
Whether or not I take this upon myself, it's my own damn business, isn't it?
So you can take this upon yourself, yet deny me the right to face my own problems. I do not seem to recall you ever telling me about Anastasia-sama and Echidna. Sorry, I should not have said this. But it is the truth.
Wrenching this out in a choked voice, Julius turned his eyes away. Within that voice, that stubbornness, Subaru finally noticed it. Julius had not remained calm at all. Far from hiding the tempest raging in his heart, he could not even keep it from seeping through to the surface. Having lost his own existence, and even the one thing that remained to him, his loyalty to his master, was shown to be a lie. Their promise to tell each other every concern broken. Even so, the man named Julius was not supposed to be subject to emotions.
I do not intend to argue. For Anastasia-sama, we must find a way to deal with this situation as soon as possible. Echidna, I hope I can count on your sincere cooperation.
Of course. Since you have already found out, I suppose there is no reason for me to continue playing the part of Anna anymore. Well, if you can tolerate me in the form of Anna, that is.
That is irrelevant. I must restore Anastasia-sama to the way she was, and looking at this form will remind me of what I must do.
Knowing of his intention to hurt himself to strengthen his resolve, Echidna put on a sad expression, but Julius had already turned up to the sky without seeing her face. As if noticing for the very first time that the night sky from atop the balcony was unblemished by the miasma, he squinted his eyes under the radiance of the stars.
There is no reason for us to stay here for long. Let us return inside. As for Anastasia-sama's body and Echidna, it must be conveyed to Amelia-sama and the others tomorrow.
Ho ho. All right. I will prepare for it as well.
Those words, Julius gently took Echidna's hand and began to walk. Surely, it was exactly the same as what he had always done for Anastasia. Whatever was inside, his loyalty to Anastasia would not morph, even if she was sleeping deep within her body, even if she had forgotten Julius.
Julius!
Feeling something painful at the sight of his figure, Subaru shouted out to him. Having been abandoned by memories while still remembering everything about the others, having nothing left except to struggle, desperately relying on that sentiment, having been there himself, he understood that pain. Even if he had been forgotten, he could not forget. That thought alone gave him the impulse to move. Julius halted his steps and, still holding on to Echidna, did not turn around. The fact that his back remained perfectly straight, in spite of all the turmoil within his heart, was just totally frustrating.
Isn't there something you want to say to me?
Regarding Echidna, regarding Anastasia's body, He had kept it all from him. Tonight, he had promised to take over for spending time in the green room, but Subaru broke that promise and secretly met with Echidna on the balcony. He could make excuses. There were reasons. It was not that he meant to. But regardless of his intentions being malicious or not, regardless of his reasons, regardless of his excuses, his heart could not pull free. So why don't you raise your voice to shout at me? Swear at me, vent out your rage. Subaru could not be sure whether it was his own sense of guilt, or whether Julius truly thought this. Surely Julius would never raise his voice or spit out abuses.
There is. I understand why you believe this truth should remain hidden from me. You meant no harm. It arose only out of concern and consideration. I agree with your apprehensions. If our positions were switched, I would have kept my silence as well. Yet, even so.
Looking up to the sky, with a voice as if wrenching it out.
Whether it is myself, or Anastasia-sama, or you, I do not wish to be thought of as someone unworthy of being a knight.
No special procedures were needed of him to return to the inside of the tower. Just like the way he had entered the balcony, he only had to crawl down below waist level to get through the hidden passage and come out inside the tower. While crawling on his knees, the pointless thought suddenly occurred to him that Julius must have crawled through here in the exact same way. Unfortunately, since he had already crawled back earlier, Subaru lost his chance to record this into memory. It was because he was so overwhelmed by Julius's final words that he remained there speechlessly for a while. He had honestly thought that no words would have come out of him, except that had not been the case. Most likely, Julius believed that even if he shouted and swore at a guilt-ridden Subaru, it would not have brought him any comfort. And since his virtue would not allow it, he could not hurl rage and complaints, but only swallow them silently on the spot. But that had not been the case. The words Julius had left behind in the end had pierced into his heart like a thorn. Perhaps Subaru would have felt better had he been yelled at. He did not feel that it would have been any easier, but it would have been better than not being told anything at all. However, reality was not as such. The thorn left by Julius insisted on pain, and blood continued to flow from its puncturing wound, deep enough to make him hesitate about pulling it out.
I can't go back to the green room anymore.
Chances were, Julius had already escorted Echidna back to the green room by now. After that, it would be unlikely that he would go search for a bed in the dragon carriage left in the lower levels. This deep-rooted problem, the sheer depth of it, a fault of Subaru's own poor judgment, was not something that can be cleared up overnight. At least, it would take time, and simply holding calm discussions would not be enough to resolve it. Thinking about it that way, he felt a little embarrassed about going back to the dragon carriage. Even though he knew Julius would not return to that place, he would still feel somewhat guilty about tugging himself into a warm futon right now. However, at this late hour, there was no one Subaru could spill his heart to. The sleeping Rem and Subaru's best buddy Patriche were both in the green room, a place he was too afraid to approach because of Julius and Echidna. And it was far too selfish to wake Amelia and Beatrice up to make them listen to his whining. So, at this point, there was no one Subaru could...
Barasu?
Hearing that voice, Subaru made a muted sound with his throat and halted his steps. Turning around in astonishment, amidst the fourth floor's passageway, where footsteps struck on the stone floor, he saw the form of the pink-haired girl, Rom. Rom's crimson eyes were wide open, looking over Subaru from head to toe.
It has been a while since I have seen you make that face. Disreputable.
Why are you immediately saying that right after we meet? Come to think of it, what are you doing here this late?
I could ask you the same thing. Although, what Barasu could be up to at this hour would be unimaginable.
And Rom, who crossed her arms as she approached him, Subaru tightened his cheeks at her words. Just the thought of what she might actually be imagining pulled a shadow over Subaru's face. Seeing Subaru do this, Rom shrugged her shoulders sadly.
Anyway, you were bothering Ram with your whining again, weren't you? Even though Rom's little sister is cute and forgiving, do not be too unreasonable with having her do all the tough work.
Yeah. Well, you're right.
Seeing Rom's eyes slightly widen as she heard this, Subaru let out a bitter smile. He did not convey his true feelings to her, but only what she might have guessed based on his daily activities. It was true, just as Rom said, that Subaru often spent his nights at Ram's bedside. In fact, he had already done so tonight, and it was only natural that Rom would think he had just left. But today, it was not only that.
Stop making that miserable face. With that pathetic, miserable expression, you look even lower than an already basic manservant. Looking like that, people will begin to suspect Emilia Sama's character for taking Barasu as her knight. Please revise.
He felt Rom's finger flicking his drooping forehead. Subaru's eyes teared up from the force, and just as he was about to protest, Rom disinterestedly harumphed through her nose, shutting him back up. All the while, she herself seemed perfectly at ease.
Jeez, really? Nice summer is nice summer after all.
Please, do not disgust me with your thoughts.
Subaru commented while stroking his forehead, and Rom put on an expression as if disgusted from the bottom of her heart. To feel salvation from such an attitude, he really must be pathetic. No part of what she had said had carried any expression of warmth or sympathy, but somehow, that was what it meant to him.
Ram, what were you doing at this hour anyway?
Disgusting.
Don't just suddenly end the conversation like that! We only just started.
Hopelessly shrugging his shoulders, Subaru let out a quiet sigh and turned his eyes to the passageway behind Rom, where she had come from. Although the fourth floor was very wide, there was nothing particularly remarkable here. There was a green room and the luggage they had brought up from the dragon carriage. And
The staircase to the second floor? Unless you went up there alone?
Worry not. I am not as reckless as him. Albeit it might not seem as such, but I am not conceited enough to think I can manage Reed Estrella alone.
imagining something he would rather not imagine, Subaru twisted his lips, and Rom laughed through her nose as she denied his suspicions. Amidst it, he noticed a subtle reference to Julius's stubbornness evidenced within her words, but approaching that topic here and now would twist the thorn in Subaru's chest.
It seems that something happened between you and Knight Julius. Have a fight?
Why that easy to read?
Barasu is as easy to read as Rom is intelligent. The latter has more to do with it, so rest at ease. No, of course the former has plenty to do with it as well. It would not take long to get everything out of you under torture.
The fact that you're assuming I'd be placed under torture is kind of frightening, you know?
Watching Subaru pick at his own cheek, Rom just squinted her eyes. Seeing that she was not jesting, Subaru shuddered a little. It was true that, considering Subaru's position, it was not entirely unlikely that Emilia's enemies in the royal selection might resort to this kind of barbaric measures. Maybe it would be a good idea to watch out for that after all.
In that case, what were you doing here?
I did not ascend to the second floor. I only tried to go up.
I thought you just said that you weren't that reckless. Unless... Were you thinking of attacking him while he's asleep?
Had no qualms about using any means necessary to win. It might be understandable if Rom thought the same and planned a stealth attack Reed in his sleep. The question was whether this Reed, which appeared to have been reproduced from the records of the past, really slept. And even if he did sleep, could she really manage it in the first place?
Unfortunately, it is impossible to attack him while in slumber. I turned back halfway up the stairs. He really is an abnormal monster. He would almost make Garf look cute.
Although, after getting to know Garfield, he's pretty cute.
Not his antics, I meant the level of danger he poses.
The way she put it was that she actually did not deny that Garfield's antics were cute. But since they were in the middle of something more important, Subaru frowned and forgot about it.
I'm convinced now. If one side has no qualms about using any means necessary, then the other side would use any means necessary as well. Like we have discussed, in order to beat him, we must not let him take it too seriously, and only then satisfy his conditions.
Just to make sure of that, you went up to the second floor alone?
Must I restate it over and over? I did not go up to the second floor. It is too difficult for Rom at this moment.
Confirming that they simply were not strong enough, Rom warned of the need for preparations before challenging the second floor again. Speaking of needing more time, the thought of his argument with Echidna and Julius resurfaced once more, and Subaru could not help but take on a difficult expression.
Barasu?
No, it's nothing. Well, it's not totally nothing. But it doesn't matter right now. Most likely, we'll have a proper talk tomorrow.
A remarkably ambiguous statement.
That was kind of what I was going for. But it's not what you think. As expected. Even here, I've done something ungrateful. And it's a bit hard to recover from it this time.
For now, it was a crack that he was not sure if it could be mended completely. He did not wish to complicate it any further and spread the crack even wider. Watching Subaru's defeatism, Rom still was not convinced, but decided to let it go.
In any case, conquering the second floor. Defeating Reed will require more time and effort. At least, it would be nice if we could count on Shala's support.
Well, it would not be an exaggeration to say that she cannot exactly be counted on. Although, hadn't she helped us earlier, we'd all be charred black under the sand right now.
Without Shala, they would never have been able to reach the examination on the second floor in the first place. But even with that in mind, she had been a disappointing sage ever since they entered the tower. Of course, if they could borrow the examiner's own hand to pass the examination, it would be quite exceptional indeed.
If we only ever take the high road, we're bound to get stuck in a deadlock here.
It's not like I think it'd be better to take a more innocent approach, but purely on a case-by-case basis, it just wouldn't work this time.
You say that so effortlessly. Rom does not possess that kind of leisure.
Satisfied with Subaru's answer, Rom shrugged her shoulders, and, while slowly turning her back.
If you do not go to bed soon, it will hurt your performance tomorrow. I shall head back to the dragon carriage as well.
Yeah,
He wanted to explain as to why returning was not an option for him, but it was too difficult. On the other hand, looking back and seeing Subaru mumbling this way, Rom spilled a small sigh.
As you prefer. But if you drag us down because you did not get enough sleep, I will twist it off.
No. Twist what off?
I will leave that to your imagination.
Wave of her hand, Rom headed in the direction of the stairs to the lower levels, without touching on what he did not want to touch on, leaving him to stand up by his own efforts. Could that have been her consideration? Watching the thin back walking into the distance, even knowing that she would not gaze at it, Subaru raised up his hand.
Good night, Nay Summer. See you tomorrow.
not Barusuzne-sama. Stop calling me that.
The last denial carried no strength within it, as if she had already accepted, and only resisted for the sake of it. Watching Rom's figure disappear after leaving those words behind, Subaru clicked the bones in his neck and whispered, what am I going to do now? He could not go to the dragon carriage anymore, and it was too difficult to return to the green room. In that case, he could either find some other place to rest till the morn, or find a place where he could do something meaningful with his time.
If I just want a place to sleep, I could find a suitable room.
The top candidate would be the room where they stored their luggage. The dragon carriage's cargo and food supplies had all been moved into that room, though it would be hard yet possible to find something he could use as a pillow. The bottleneck was just how to find some way to reduce the pain on his body while sleeping on the floor, aside from sleeping in the dragon carriage. Or rather...
Think about how to conquer the second floor. A strategy for defeating Reed.
Honestly, that would be the most constructive choice. Most of the problems surrounding their current situation were about capturing this watchtower. Though it could not be stated with certainty, it would nevertheless play a huge role in improving their situation. That evening, the consensus they had reached on how to defeat Reed was to make him not take something seriously, and then satisfy his conditions in earnest, or something vague along those lines. At the very least, if there was a chance that some of the vagueness could be reduced in the slightest.
That's it!
And coming to this point, Subaru snapped his fingers. As the idea flashed through his mind like a lightning strike, Subaru changed the direction of his steps with a bash.
If this goes well...
Though he could not say for sure, it should be a move that could greatly advance the situation. Setting his heart on that thought, Subaru sprinted toward his goal. In the watchtower in the night, loud, spirited echoes of Subaru's footsteps rang out. Only the echoes of a lone person's footsteps. The sensation of waking was like the moment of emerging out of the water's surface. Pulling the dreaming, unconscious body upwards, using a breath to restore the entire body to reality, the consciousness slowly reawakened, and, breaking through the water's surface, he was born. If sleep was death and wakefulness was life, then that description would not have been far off. Anyways, such poetic sentiments aside, he gradually began to wake.
Subaru! Hey, Subaru? Are you alright?
What the?
The moment he opened his eyes, immediately stricken by the beautiful face at their corner, Subaru rolled to the side. And, not rolling very far before running out of surface, he dropped a short distance and landed on his shoulder.
Subaru, are you alright? Why did you start rolling all of a sudden?
No, it's not like I willingly decided to roll or anything.
Squeezing his banged-up shoulder and lightly shaking his head, he pushed himself up. And then, in the blink of an eye, Subaru was confused. It was a green room. The entire interior of the room was covered by sprawling ivy that completely hid the walls behind them. If he was told that the whole outlandish-looking room was made of ivy, he probably would have believed it. And apparently, Subaru was lying on the floor, beside a bed woven from ivy at the very center of the room. He had probably rolled off of it. That would be his analysis of the situation. It was funny that Subaru could make such judgments so calmly, but there was a reason for that.
It looks like you didn't hit anything too hard. That's good. But I got really worried. You know, you shouldn't scare me like that.
Well, yeah, if you say it like that, Subaru won't reflect on it, I suppose. If you don't say it more severely, Betty's worries won't get through to him, in fact.
I guess you're right. But I'm surprised Beatrice would be saying that. After going into such a panic when we couldn't find Subaru, You were almost in tears when you found him lying there.
Don't have to mention the part that dispenses mentioning, I suppose. In front of his eyes, a conversation like comedy was unfolding. Nodding stupidly in agreement to the sunny bickering, Subaru turned around. Sitting on the floor and breathing right behind him was some kind of huge creature.
Huh?
There was a giant lizard, with black scales covering all over its skin. It was a huge lizard the size of a horse. The strangest part was that it was gently snuggling up to Subaru's nape with its nose. Seeing that it was friendly, Subaru gently petted the lizard on its head. And then he let out a sigh.
In other words, this is it.
Calm and collected, slowly, he breathed out these words. Seeing Subaru like this, the two girls in front of him tilted their heads.
Subaru?
Subaru? And, like two sisters speaking with the same breath, they simultaneously called Subaru's name. A silver-haired girl, so beautiful that his eyes wanted to explode, and a fairy-like little girl in a pretty dress. A beautiful silver-haired girl, a drill lolly, a giant lizard, and a room made of ivy. Subaru opened his mouth wide and shouted it out. Because this was...
I've been summoned to a parallel world!
And that's the end of the chapter.
There we go. Welcome to Arc 6, everybody.
Now the real arc
Yeah.
begins!
Yay!
Welcome
What?
back, Arc 1.
What are you
Subaru.
talking about?
Do-do-do-do-do-do. The way I
We're in
audibly
a-
gasped when I
we're in a
first
story?
read this.
I shit my pants.
When I was initially reading this for the first time, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, what? What the fuck? No, no, not the amnesia plot! No, not to pay! Don't touch it! No!
Like, dude, the gut drop I had.
I had to read the next chapter.
You know
I
that
was so
sinking
confused.
feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. That twist was pretty well done.
Yeah, it came out
Yeah,
of
Rom should pat
nowhere.
herself on the back.
Pachi, pachi, pachi.
I think what sucks is this happens right like after Julius and Subaru had like a skirmish, like Julius finding out the truth in regards to Anastasia. So that's kind of left unsolved.
There's... let's just say the situation is not set up very well for poor Arc 1 Subaru over here, because not only does he have a lot of unresolved emotional relationship stuff with basically everyone here, now all the people that really do love him, especially Julius, mind you, because this is the only person who knows who Julius is, has just disappeared. So...
Yeah. Julius is the last remaining person
sucks
who
to be a fucking
belonged to
finest
him.
knight.
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah, and it has to feel bad right after arguing.
Oh yeah.
For
Not only did you just
Julius.
argue with your friend, and it was a really emotional, and probably, I'd say their actual biggest fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, how
They
you
could
guys
never make it
resolve-
up.
Julius literally beat him into a point of unconsciousness with a wooden stick for
hey,
hours.
that was an emotional fight for Subaru. That was not for Julius. Let's be real.
Subaru kind of deserved it.
This is like an
He did.
actual friendship fight right here. And yeah.
A non-physical
So
fight.
anyone who's new to this, what do you think?
Welcome in.
Welcome
There
to Arc
is-
6,
to
everyone.
suffering.
Confusion in the chat is what they think.
Huh?
I'm glad he's got no
Yeah.
trauma.
Good thing
So
we
if,
didn't take a break after this.
If anyone at home is struggling to understand what has just happened, Subaru has reset to the point where he first got summoned. It is as if he's just waking up from Earth for the first time.
Yeah, it's like
I've
if he
been
was walking out of that
summoned!
convenience store and then he woke up waking up in the tower.
Yeah. Instead of him opening his eyes and he's in the middle of the street, he is here.
He's opening his eyes right next to Amelia and Beatrice instead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You say point.
Now, I don't know how he's gonna this is where the question comes in. Is this like a body reset thing, or is this like a thing? Because he's either in his tracksuit, right, or he's in his normal clothes. But then that's gonna mean, wait, there's scars on my body that I've not seen before. Why is my hand black? What the fuck?
Wait, what the fuck happened?
What did I do?
Why are these two people clinging on to me? What's going on?
With how emotionally fraught this group is right now, right? Like, Arc 1 Subaru, who has no emotional intelligence and is dealing with his own shit and is like, fake it till you'll make it, that is not a good mix for this group currently, so...
Yeah. It's like, they're set up like a house of cards, and the base just got ripped out.
Yeah.
Yep.
The ace has kind of left the field. Or what would be better than that?
He's cooked. The entire group is cooked, actually.
Everyone is cooked.
Yeah, everyone is cooked.
This went from a okay situation to what could possibly go even worse now.
Legitimately, the only one who the situation doesn't change for in terms of relationships at all is Shala, because if the relationship is the same,
fair.
I don't know who the fuck you are. Like,
Still just denying everything that he knows about her.
Yeah.
It's like,
Now-
who are you?
Especially with all of this stuff with, like, Echidna and her questioning, who the fuck are you, right? Like, Scarf Donor being like, who are you? Being very suspicious of him. I don't know if this is gonna help.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Oh,
very
no,
pointed
no.
foreshadowing.
Bros.
So we have a situation that is not looking good for Subaru and the gang here. So I guess we'll have to see how that plays out, eh?
Yeah, Wolf, we're gonna have to go back and listen to our Arc 1 and 2 reads to get a old cringe Subaru back in your head.
Oh yeah, I got to get back the energy.
It's crazy.
P-Arc.
You gotta go train again.
Back to the P-Arc, baby. Let's go.
I forgot about that. You
I just
got
have to
this,
act
Wolf.
like I'm holding,
No one can ever forget the
I'm
PR.
holding it in for the entire time. I just gotta be like, hey guys, hello.
The overexcited like kid in a candy store.
Hey guys, did you know I'm a very, very normal human being who's like really honest and happy? And yeah, you should love me, please.
Imagine
He's just
if
happy to be here.
Imagine Rom is the first person that he interacts with and thinks that he's been introducing himself as Barasu to everyone the entire time.
Oh, that was...
Wait, I'm Marusu? Oh!
It'd be even. Do you know how funny it'd be if it was just a random guy instead? It was just a random guy who wakes up in Subaru. That'd be even more. It'd be like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's going to be great is when the anime comes out, we can just have people who've never seen the show start at the next
Yes.
episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And just be as confused as he is.
Oh, yeah.
I have had a long-standing like hope, like semi-prediction, semi-hope that when this is like the ending to an episode, we get Styx Helix playing.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we get the first ending playing instead of whatever ending it normally was.
I
would
thought
put
this
the
was going
first
to
ending.
be the end of Core 3 of Season 4, or Season 3. Like,
Oh,
honestly.
I also
Would've
thought
been
that too.
fun.
That would have been
so
that would
fun.
have been genuinely the craziest cliffhanger ever. Especially with how like because I've definitely seen a bit over the years how anime only's perception of Subaru has changed so much ever since season 2 came out, right?
Yeah.
And then if everyone sees him get reverted back to fucking Arc 1 Subaru, they'll be like, no!
The chaos.
He's back to bitch made.
Let's be real. The chaos would be fun to watch.
But it is it's been 3 hours. We
Yes,
should probably
we've
wrap
been
it up.
waiting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, the G-Man, for that donation partway through.
Thank you so
Appreciate you.
much.
Appreciate
Oh,
everyone who
the-
adds throughout as well.
The G-Man is so much more obvious. I was calling him Thegman in my head this entire time.
Oh, yeah.
It's
G-Man.
okay. Time to get some rest.
We love you for all your support, guys. Thank you. We're back.
Thank
We're
you
back.
so much.
That's
Bye,
crazy.
everyone. Thank you for today.
And if you want to join us, ARC 7 auditions for another month, okay?
Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.